Right?
Oh, sorry. You're on.
Are we on?
Yes.
Well, you've just put me on early. Charlotte's in charge, right? She's fired the gun early, and here we are. A very good morning to you. It's 6:59 and 14 seconds, which means that actually it was slightly earlier than normal. But why not? Because today is a day when you need to be early. You need to be on the blocks. You need to be ready to go. Because tonight, the biggest thing that's ever happened to the Mike Graham Show is going to be going live on the Shepherd's Bush Empire, and you can still buy tickets. If you haven't got them, get yourself on there. I'm probably going to be pushing it if I say, can we play a quick promo for the show? Because you probably haven't got one. Have you got one?
I've got one.
Have you got one?
Go.
Let's do it. Look at this, David Bowie. You've got
Chippendales.
the Chippendales were here.
Keir Starmer saw that.
Yeah, he was here for that. The Stranglers, About Time, amazing. Delamitri, yeah. Around here we've got Alanis Morissette. We've got Tracy Chapman, right? I mean, amazing, isn't it?
This gig.
This one is fantastic. Rolls Royce, Shalimar, and The Real Thing.
Wow.
Tony Denton Promotions. I wonder who that is. Yeah. Never heard of that. But just amazing. And the 0171 numbers, that's quite old. Yeah. And then, this is the entrance to the stage here. So you can see through there.
Show them how you go out.
Yeah, so I'm going to walk through here. And just.
Who's going to be where?
Well, we're going to have a lectern over there. Pooch is going to be producing up somewhere up here. There's going to be a desk scenario kind of here. And then we're going to have a couple of sofas over there where people can sit and chat and you know, interact with each other. We're going to do Plank of the Week probably on the sofas. Plonk of the Week maybe as well. Yep. A lot of equipment over here. There's a clock. We need more than one clock, don't we? Yes. We need the international clock. We'll bring the international clock and set it up somewhere, maybe behind us. But I love it. It's just fabulous. You know, they talk about the smell of the grease paint and all that. But you feel fantastic when you come to a place like this. Yeah. Look at the sky. I mean, there's the lights up there. There's a gantry. There's a mirror ball. They're actually showing World Cup football here at some point during the World Cup, obviously. Fantastic, isn't it? Brilliant. And so many bands have played here. I'm literally walking on the same stage as Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. Wow. You know, I don't need to do anything else now. I can die happy. We'll see you on May the 6th. We'll see you on May the 6th. And May the 6th is today, right? Incredible. We've got loads and loads of things to talk about this morning. We've got lots of different headlines in the papers. New powers to treat Iran proxies as foreign spies. It's the front page of the Times. You've also got Zach Polanski's kind of credibility falling apart literally before your very eyes. According to the Times, Polanski's false claims about Red Cross role during deputy run. He pretended that he was doing a thing for the Red Cross, which it turns out he wasn't. I don't know quite what the Sun's doing. They seem to have gone a bit mad. They've gone with a story about flights being cancelled. 13,000 flights axed for May. Holiday chaos over fuel shortages. Come cry with me, is what they say. And everyone I talk to says, actually, there's nothing to worry about. You know, there's no problem. I don't know why they're banging on about fuel shortages and the fact that we're all going to be unable to go on holiday. If we are, in fact, at war with Iran, then presumably people wouldn't be going on holiday. But we'll see. Front page of the Daily Mail, again about Zach Polanski, the tit whisperer, as he's known. The millions of middle-class voters culled by Polanski's cuddly rhetoric need to understand it's guaranteed to end in penury, misery and despotism. And they say 30 Green candidates have been probed over their anti-Semitism links. And basically, this guy is a complete and utter scumbag, and I don't mind saying it. Of course, tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is the day that we all decide exactly what local council we want to have. But I wrote a big piece on my Substack yesterday, and I sort of I mentioned the Rolling Stones song, This Could Be the Last Time, because what I said was, actually, this could be the last time you vote for the Labour Party or you vote in an election where the Labour Party is in charge. This could be the last time you vote in an election when Keir Starmer is still the Prime Minister. This could be the last time that you vote in an election where the two major parties are indeed something that you can think of as the two major dominating parties, because I think this is the beginning of the end of the Labour Party, and I think it might well also be the beginning of the end of the Conservative Party. And do you know what? I don't think anyone in their right minds would actually mourn the death of the Labour Party, and I don't think anyone would mourn the death of the Conservative Party. They have both completely and utterly underwhelmed their voters. They have both completely and utterly betrayed
their traditional values, and they're both completely and utterly morphed into parties which do not represent the people of this country. And that's why Reform are doing so well, and in some ways, even though I don't agree with them, it's why the Greens are appealing to people, because people are sick to death of listening to people like Keir Starmer, who talks absolute and utter bollocks, right? Spends his time in foreign countries, goes to Armenia when he should be actually campaigning to try and get people to vote for him here in this country. The reason he's not here is because people have said to him, even with his own party, please do not come to our constituency because you will kill off whatever small vote we've now got, because everybody hates him. Everywhere he goes, he gets a cacophony of noise about what a wanker he is, what an absolute bullshit artist he is, and what an absolute fucking plank. Sorry, I can't do it. And I look at him now and I feel hatred towards him. He's the only person, I think, in politics who has ever driven me to that particular place, right? And I don't know why. Let's talk to Stephen Barrett, who is here, our favourite barrister, who has got a lot to say, I'm sure, about the death of democracy in this country and why we need a massive change and why tomorrow is so important that people go out and vote for something which actually is quite important, how you are governed locally. Stephen, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I'm sorry to be so vitriolic at this early hour, 5 minutes past 7, but I feel as though we've been betrayed by our so-called betters, by the people that supposedly run the country, the people with whom we charge and give responsibility to run our nation, because they've ruined that. They've completely and utterly devastated it. They've completely and utterly betrayed the people. We got Starmer running around in places like Armenia, cuddling up to Vladimir Zelensky, promising him billions of pounds that we don't have, promising the EU £1 billion a year so that we can, beg at their doorstep for the drippings from the rich man's table. I'm sick of it, right? I'm absolutely sick of it, and I think we need to change the system.
Yeah, we do. We very clearly do. And what we've had since 2010, the Conservatives have promised to get net migration down to 10,000 a year, and they've not done that. And what we've had is for decades promises that are never met. And it's okay. I think the public are actually quite forgiving of politicians if they don't do everything, if they don't get everything 100% right, as long as the public get a vague sense that they are at least trying to do what they promised to do. But we now have the sense of a bunch of politicians, a whole swathe of politicians in both parties, which has come to be called the uniparty for a reason, and a great feeling that these people are not even trying to do what the people want, and that they've got a word for us and for democracy, which is called populism. And that word, it means, in their eyes, means everything that's wrong. It means everything that's morally bad. Doing what the people want, they think, is morally bad. Yet we live in a democracy, so that is a complete inversion of truth. That is an Orwellian position. Anybody who uses the word populist as an insult is an Orwellian. That is just a complete perversion of everything that is true about our country. Our country should be one. We've got the universal franchise. We've had it for a while, where each of us who are voters is a grown-up who is treated with respect. And by the way, Mike, we're not treated with respect on a daily basis, but we should all of us, I'm not saying Stephen Barrett needs to be treated with respect. I'm saying every single voter in this country deserves to be treated with respect. Every single grown-up in this country deserves to be treated with respect. I actually, Mike, I'd go back to using Mr. and Mrs. again, because I think this whole first name business has not helped anybody. No. It's given us the impression that we're all children and we're all to be, abused as children. Technology has not helped, Mike, because technology just does stuff without asking our permission. It literally, on the tiniest levels, it will just change functionality. Like my telephone used to, when I wasn't using it, it used to display the time, and that was quite handy for me. And I was thinking about this morning as I was rushing around trying to get ready to come on here. It would be quite useful for me if, when my telephone is just sat there, it nonetheless displays the time. Well, somebody in the world of tech land decided that my telephone will no longer display the time when it's sitting there. They didn't ask me, they didn't tell me, they just changed it. And we are living in this world where we are constantly controlled, constantly treated like children, constantly disrespected, and it's inevitable that you will get angry. It is that anger. It doesn't matter, Mike. We can take you out of the picture. Everyone will get angry, and that is what will bring the system down.
I had an episode yesterday, which you will appreciate, I'm sure, given your experiences on the railways. I was on a bus, right, going out yesterday to meet Donald McLeod, who's going to be there tonight at our extravaganza, which I'm not going to stop plugging all day. You put out a great tweet yesterday and just was like, I can't believe this is actually happening. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. We can't believe we're going to go to a theatre tonight. You and I are going to sit on a stage. You're going to be the first guest on a show which is going to be played out live to almost 1,000 people who are going to be sitting there literally lapping up your every word. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be, and if you haven't done that before, and I don't know whether you have, you will find it to be one of the most visceral and important things you've ever done in your life, because to be playing or to talk before a live audience is so just enriching, right? Because these are all people that are your friends. They all love you. They really regard you as a very important person and a very smart person, and they will be hanging on your every word. And there's nothing like it, right? So I get on a bus yesterday to go and meet Donald, because we had to go out for dinner, and I was under strict instructions from Pooch. Don't go out late. Don't have too much to drink. Don't be a complete idiot, right? It did, actually. No, it did, because I was home by 10 o'clock. I ran into Charlotte, by the way, as well, at the same bar. I was like, is this the only bar in London you know? Because I took her there. I got on the bus, right? We went about sort of 150 yards up the road, and the Rotherhithe Tunnel had been shut down, which means that you basically sit in traffic until they decide to reopen it. And sometimes they shut it down for no good reason. So I said to walked up to the front, said to the bus driver, can you let me off, please? No. I said, why can't you just open the doors and let me off? It's health and safety. I said, it's fine. I said, I accept that the risk is, huge that I could open a door and step onto a pavement while the bus is stationary. I said, he said, I'm not going to drive it and as long as you're standing there. And in the end, I sort of wore him down after threatening him with a lawsuit over false imprisonment. He said, why don't you just press the button that says open the door? And I went, okay, are you giving me permission to do that? And so I got off the bus, I opened the door and I walked away. And I just thought to myself, a different person or somebody who perhaps was not as shirty as me would have just had to stand there and be stuck in traffic for over an hour while going nowhere. And I thought, this is what we have become, because the Health and Safety Brigade have said you can't open a bus door while the bus is stationary if it's not at a bus stop. And I'm thinking, is this really where we are? And I know this might sound trivial, but it's not. This is an exact, I would say, sort of magnetised version of life in Britain.
I prefer, actually, we're living through rule of law collapse, and the big incidents get much more attention and are much more dramatic, for very good reasons. And when they're traumatic and they're tragedies, then that is heartbreaking. But to my mind, intellectually, it's the smaller incidents that are much more fascinating to me. Things like that. These incidents where we are told that we are to be controlled for safety. It's completely vague.
No.
We are not told what the rules are. No one actually seems to know what the rules are.
No.
It's quite often not actually the safest thing to do. It's just always the most controlling thing to do, as though the true danger is a free man. That's where we seem to be at. The greatest danger in our society is people who are free, and therefore they must be absolutely crushed and controlled.
Because they're a bit random. They might say something wrong.
Yeah, and so my train station shouldn't just be famous for what it did to me. It should be famous for what it does to everyone every day. So for health and safety reasons, because it says it doesn't want crowded platforms, it simply won't tell us which platform the train is going from, and it changes them almost every day. So what you end up with is about a minute's notice to get somewhere that might actually be sort of 800 yards away. There are some of the platforms are really quite far from the barrier.
Yes.
And what you end up with, therefore, is an almost hysteric population of people who are, all of them quite naturally want to get on their train and go home. But they are whipped up into a frenzy of hysteria and fear, because they know that the train company doesn't have their back, isn't on their side, isn't trying to get
and won't help them.
And won't help them if things go wrong. And we had an incident yesterday where we had 4 packed carriages, and they decided at the last minute, literally the last minute before the train left, to turn those 4 packed carriages into 2 separate trains. And so we had to get off, move
Oh my
back.
God, really?
again, and it just, well, we reacted in the most British ways. And I don't get me wrong, Mike, this problem is endemic across the West now.
Yeah.
And the West will see rule of law collapse.
Yes.
This is bigger than us, I'm afraid. I do, though, think that we are one of the best places for this to happen. Because, of course, yesterday, everybody tutted and rolled their eyes rather than getting, emotional and hysterical or wailing or banging on the floor. Everybody reacted in a very British way. And of course, there was a lovely man there with 2 lovely dogs. So everybody's now, talking about the lovely dogs. And everybody's just reacting in the most acceptable, kind, and rule of law-ish way. Because don't forget, Mike, we invented this. So even if it collapses because they've just been printing law after law after law after law after law, we will still have a fundamental in this country. And it's one of the many reasons I like being here. At the end of the day, you got off that bus. Okay, it was a struggle. It was difficult. You bumped into the authoritarian problem of now, and you probably were very frustrated, but you did actually manage to get off that bus. And we're all of us going to have to get off that bus. We're all going to have to take back power into our own hands and be grown-ups again and admit that we are grown-ups. And admit, quite frankly, Mike, because I'm old and wrinkly, so admit that from the age of 18, we are grown-ups in this country. We are free. We are voters. We are in charge. This is a serious grown-up country, and they cannot treat us like this anymore.
Yes, but you've said this many times before, and quite rightly, that the trouble is now with the country that you and I, as law-abiding citizens, are the people being targeted by the authorities to be told what we must do. Walk here, don't walk there, stop there, don't stop there, giving instructions every single second of the day, whereas the people who are in fact completely and utterly lawless can do whatever the hell they like. They can go and rob individuals, they can take their phones, they can steal, they can go into a shop and just walk out with stuff they haven't paid for, And so we've got this 2-tier society where people like you and I are victimised, and we are luckily enough able to deal with that. That's fine. However, there will be a time, perhaps, when we're not. You've had your own experience at Marylebone Station, which was not edifying, which was not pleasant, which was actually really, really awful. And I'm afraid that's only going to get worse, I fear.
Yes, I think that is going to get worse. We're living through a bureaucratic dictatorship. They call it a technocracy.
Yes.
All of these words, I think, are very unhelpful. It's just the tyranny of weak men. That's what we're living through.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, weak men target people like you and I because they know that we're law-abiding and we're not going to punch them in the face. And they won't target the people who they fear might punch them in the face because they are just weak men. Yes. And ultimately, we are not getting out of this until we restore clear rules that apply to everyone equally. That is the absolute fundamental that we must cling to. We must get that back and we must apply them. This is how New York got out of its crisis in the 1980s. It's the only way out other than a strongman dictator. And you will never find me supporting a strongman dictator. That is not what we believe in. This country has been tyrant-free since 1688. I think we should stay that way, but we're only going to, people need to realize that this is much more serious than they think. This is not some passive whine or small problem. This is a big issue that will ultimately kick off. And people will not tolerate this forever. I call this, how many times can you hit somebody with your trolley and Waitrose before you die? Yeah. And a friend of mine calls this the exploding doormat, which is where the doormat is stepped on time after time after time, that the people who step on it think the doormat will never explode, but one day the doormat's going to explode. Yeah. This country is not going to put up with this forever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think because that's the normal human condition. There is only so much you can put up with. Eventually, you have to go, I'm sorry, I've had enough. I need to ask you about this. I need to say something about this, or I need to kind of, complain about this. And you say that, we're not run by dictators, but we sort of are in a way. They're just trying to be cleverer about it. Have a look at this from Sadiq Khan yesterday, and if you believe a word of what this man is about to say, I will happily have you condemned to a secure unit somewhere near Broadmoor. Have a look.
Number 10 for the Prime Minister's Summit on Anti-Semitism. The horrific terror attack in Golders Green last week was the latest in a series of anti-Semitic attacks. Understandably, Jewish Londoners are angry. They're tired of warm words and want to see real action. As Mayor, I'm focused on doing all I can to deliver that action. We've significantly increased the policing presence in northwest London, with further deployments planned for the weeks ahead. And recently, the government announced £25 million in funding, which will help us maintain this heightened presence in the short term. But I've been clear, we need to see a sustained step change in policing to keep Jewish Londoners safe. And the Met Commissioner and I will continue to lobby the government about how we can deliver just that. Getting the police response right is critical, but it will not be enough on its own. As a society, we need to confront the rising tide of hatred head on. That's why we'll continue to invest record amounts from City Hall in programmes that challenge extremism and bring communities together. I urge all Londoners to speak up, to stand in solidarity with our Jewish friends and neighbours, and to join the fight against anti-Semitic hatred. It's unacceptable that Jewish people are having to walk through life looking over their shoulder. And as Mayor, I'll not rest until Jewish Londoners and all our communities feel safe, secure, and able to live without fear.
I wonder if there's a word that he could have used in that particular diatribe which would have pinpointed exactly where the hatred is coming from. I wonder whether he might have said the Muslim community needs to brighten itself up. The Muslim community needs to stop preaching hatred against Jews. The Muslim community needs to stop encouraging people to shout vile slogans against Jews, and maybe stop driving down Finchley Road threatening to kill and rape daughters of Jewish families. Didn't say any of that.
No, he didn't, Mike. And the other one is that you've got things like the leader of the Liberal Democrats claiming that there is a genocide in Gaza. Yeah. It's really unhelpful when people just lie and say that there is a genocide in Gaza. There was no genocide in Gaza. That's a good thing. I'm obviously anti-genocide. Genocide would have been awful, but it didn't happen. There was a war, and war is awful, but there was a war that was provoked. And that's where we are. This lie that there's a genocide is, I think, to my mind, that's the first step. I'd like to see the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London call that lie out. And then I'd like to see other steps to de-escalate, focusing on the Jewish community. But what's happening is that people are angry because the system is completely failing. Right? So this is where the anger will come out amongst the bad people. And it's like we should look at anger and anger in society like flowing water. Okay, if you just turn the tap on, and it will overflow, and then you will see where the water will go. And unfortunately, this crevice of anti-Jewish hatred is so deep in humanity that the water inevitably flows towards anti-Jewish hatred. But they will go in other places too, and it will pile up. And what's happening is you have to turn the tap off. So the way that you turn the tap off, Mike, is to create a society where people aren't angry. A society where people are treated better than they are currently treated. A society that actually works, which is why when I say, I'm interested in rule of law collapse, and obviously the atrocities that happen are still absolute atrocities. Yes. But I am at the moment focusing my attention on the really tiny things. So when we criticize my train company, we should criticize them for the fact that what used to be a fast train taking 25 minutes is now a fast train taking 42 minutes. Why? And all of this will be health and safety and laws and fear and all of this unnecessary stuff. But fundamentally, that's a country that's breaking. If a train journey that used to take 25 minutes in 2014 now takes 42 minutes, then something is broken. And I'm using the specific, but this will be replicated across the country in all sorts of places. And we protect our Jewish community by defeating the big bads at the moment. I just smack them down. Get rid of the lie about the genocide in Gaza. Yeah. Prescribe the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which you absolutely can do. Keir Starmer keeps pretending that he can't, which is just nonsense. That is nonsense. And prosecute the people who are openly supporting the proscribed groups, which you can do. Again, there's a myth. There are two legal myths. One is that he needs a new law to prescribe the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. No, he doesn't need a new law to do that. The other one, two, that in order to prosecute the supporters of these terrorist groups, you need a new law. No, you don't need a new law to do that. Okay, there's rumors going around. Well-meaning non-lawyers are saying things like, "We need a new law to make it illegal to glorify terrorism." It's like, no, we've already got that. We've got the word support. Okay, that's clear enough. Just prosecute people who are supporting terrorism. We don't need another pile of laws piled on top of the massive pile of laws that we already have, because already that massive pile of laws is not functioning. And if we keep printing more laws, it's going to stop functioning even more, and then it will completely collapse in a big bang, which will be some sort of event that we will see in the public, and it will not be pretty, it will be ugly. So let's get back, let's deal with anti-Semitism today the way that we can. You know, deal with the Gaza genocide lie, prescribe the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, take all the steps necessary to protect modern Jews, but fundamentally fix the system, because the hate is coming from the broken system. Okay, this is, you know, and you saw this in the Weimar Republic, and I wish we'd stop teaching the Second World War to our young people, because it's pointless to teach the war. By the time of the war, everything had failed. The war is nothing but a massive admission that those humans in those societies had completely failed to run a human society well. That's all it is. Shouldn't teach the war. It's a waste of time. We should teach the Weimar Republic, because the Weimar Republic was the human society that was collapsing under the weight of too many laws, too much bureaucracy, and the other third sin that we are doing it too, printing money. Okay, those three things will collapse a human society. It's just, it becomes a matter of time.
And we are watching it in real time. You're so right, and this is why people love to listen to what you have to say, because you know about the law, but you also know about the way that the world works. And you're absolutely correct to say that society is collapsing, because we are witnessing it with our very eyes. And Keir Starmer is the ultimate exponent of, you know, let's bring in a law, let's find some kind of legal framework under which we can operate. Have a look at what he said yesterday about Iran with regard to Golders Green. We don't need to talk about Iran and Golders Green. We need to talk about Golders Green. Have a look.
We're clear that these actions will have consequences if that proves to be the case. Our message to Iran, or to any other country that might seek to foment violence, hatred, or division in society, is that it will not be tolerated. That is why we're fast-tracking legislation to tackle these malign threats. And we're clear-eyed about the fact that anti-Semitism does not have one source alone. Islamist, far left, far right extremism all target Jewish communities. That is why this government has put in place the first coordinated national plan to strengthen cohesion and confront extremism in all of its forms. This is not about tinkering around the edges. Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
I mean, we should have had a STARMER alert for that, shouldn't we? I mean, it's like he doesn't live in the real world. Every single time there's an issue, we'll find a summit to talk about this, and we will come up with some reasons why we will come down very hard on anyone who is a nasty anti-Semite. And then nothing happens, right? No. The guy is a complete busted flush. And I said this yesterday, and I make no apology for it. I've got this visceral hatred for him now. Every time I see him, I just think, you need to go, mate.
He does need to go, and this is pathetic, and those were just words, and nothing will actually happen. No new law is needed. And really, I think that the British public, even if they are still scared by laws and it all still seems a bit Harry Potterish to them, they should know in their bones that we've had 800 years of law, and we're a very developed country. We're one of the most stable human societies that has ever existed. We don't need new laws. Everybody should know that. We just need action. You don't need, you know, and no better example is it than his take on Iran. He's telling Iran off, but he's not admitting that they're attacking us, that they're firing missiles at us, which they've done, that they are sending terrorists to attack us on our own streets, and that we are at war with Iran. He won't admit that. Apparently, this is all Donald Trump's fault. Something, Mr. Trump. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The man is a complete joke. It is word salad. It is no action. And that's what I mean by these weak men, these weak dictators, this weak bureaucratic nonsense. Waffle, 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 nothing actually gets done. Right. You know, that's the problem that we're living in. And it's both huge in that it involves ballistic missiles being fired at us by Iran, and it's tiny in that it involves things like you not being allowed off the bus yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're all connected. They are all absolutely connected to each other. It's like, how do you connect anti-Semitism to the trans issue? It's like it's all connected. The breakdown of rules is just exploding in a variety of different ways. And it's very simple, Mike. We live in a house, and the bathroom at the top of the house, all the taps are turned on. And eventually, and at the moment, we're finding things like, oh, there's a damp patch in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a little bit, oh, that light's gone out over there. I don't know why that light's gone out over there. Yeah. And it's all connected to the fact that the taps are turned on in the upstairs bathroom.
Right.
And until we turn them off, we cannot fix the house.
But it's also, and also, it's a great analogy, because the analogy also continues in my world, where the person who sits at the bottom of the house is going, I don't know what's going on, but let's have a summit meeting about it, because that will decide what we should do. And it's almost as though he's trapped inside the body of a sort of autocrat who doesn't know what to do other than to go, let's have a summit meeting, let's have a summit meeting. And that's all he knows how to do. He doesn't know how to fix anything. He doesn't know how to sort anything out. He can't make any decisions that actually mean a fag end to anyone. All he can do is have a summit meeting and get a coalition of the willing and maybe 40,000 people, and he can go and give Vladimir Zelensky a hug and promise him a few billion quid, and then that's supposed to make us all feel better. Meanwhile, the bath is still leaking.
Yeah, and this is the problem, Mike. But he is a product of this system. You know, for 30 years, everything that he's now doing has been considered sensible. And the biggest, probably the most dangerous word in our society right now is sensible. Because everything that is considered sensible right now just means more of the stuff that got us here. Yes. And if we keep doing more of the stuff that got us here, things will not get better, they will get worse. So we really need to avoid anybody who wants to be sensible, because all that means is accepting regime think, the pre-subscribed ideas of the last 30 years, which have created this problem. And it really is causative, right? It's absolutely causative. Having too many laws is as bad as having too much printed money. We have both. Yeah. Having too much bureaucracy means you can't get anything done. He can't get anything done because he's of this system. We are going to have to, very politely and very Britishly, fix this system, or it will collapse. And there is no other option. You can't just, and that's why even he is failing. And you've got to see him as the wunderkind of this. He's like the whole system gave birth to him. He's like the immaculate conception of bureaucracy having its own child. Yeah. You know, that's what he is. And if even he can't govern, and he can't govern, but if even he can't govern, then no one can govern right now. And that is far more terrifying. And that's why when he is replaced, and he will be replaced, his replacement will collapse faster than he's collapsed. Yes. He's actually, if anything, he was the last chance the blob had of surviving, and he's failed. Yeah.
Well, I wrote a piece yesterday for my Substack in which I said this could be the last time, quoting from the Rolling Stones song of 1965, because this actually is the last chance we've got to vote when the Labour Party is at its highest point, in a way. Probably the last chance we've got to vote for a country where Keir Starmer's the leader, because the next time we vote, he probably won't be. But he has single-handedly, and as I looked back at his kind of legacy, he's destroyed not only Britain, he's destroyed the Labour Party, he's destroyed the kind of the working class Labour socialist vote, he's lost the Muslim vote to the Greens. I mean, the man is literally a walking kind of Jonah, an albatross around everybody's neck, and I can't believe he's still there.
No, and he needs to go, Mike.
He really does. He really does.
This is pathetic that they won't admit that.
I know. I can't wait to see you tonight, by the way, because not only will it be the first time I think we've appeared together. Oh, we've got some merch. We've got some merch. This is going to be on sale tonight, right? The real home of common sense. Which you can buy, the Mike Graham Show, which is very nice. There we are. We may give you one of these for free, by the way, for appearing. Plank of the week, a cap you can have. This is great. We're really moving. I mean, people are saying to me, we've never seen anything like this. I'm getting calls from people who I haven't spoken to for about 4 or 5 years who are going, we didn't think you could do this, but you're actually doing it. It's amazing. And imagine, you put out a great tweet yesterday saying, you couldn't quite believe what you're about to do, because it's going to be amazing. Imagine being on the stage with Right Said Fred and, Carol Decker and Lewis McLeod. It's going to be just incredible. Just incredible.
Well, he's going to be Donald Trump, isn't he? So I'm going to be on stage with the president.
You actually will be. You actually will be on stage with the president. And I can't wait, honestly. Stephen, so glad to see you this morning. And but get a little bit of sleep because you might be up late. And we will see you tonight at Shepherd's Bush around about 8 o'clock. You will be the first guest, honoured guest, because we hold you in such high esteem as an incredible thinker, as a great individual, as a sort of independent thinker, and somebody who inspires an awful lot of people. So we will see you later. And choose your attire well, because you don't have to wear a dinner suit, but if you want to, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm wearing this, Mike.
All right, cool. You wear whatever you like. Doesn't matter. Come on naked if you want. You know, that might up the ante. But anyway, listen, Stephen, great to see you. Stephen Barrett back with us tonight at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. If you haven't got a ticket yet, go to Ticketmaster and you can find one there because there are a few going. Super chats, is that what we got, Charlotte?
Yeah, awesome.
See you, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed. A couple of super chats. One from it's disappeared. I'm not that quick. I mean, I'm quick, but I'm not that quick. One from Sarah. So excited for tonight. See you all there. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. One from Cindy. Happy Thursday to you and the chat. I'm so happy to be here as always. Your show tonight is going to be brilliant. I'm so proud of you and the team. I tell you what, Pooch and Charlotte have done a brilliant job. Donald McLeod as well. He'll be there. Everything has gone tits up since Blair took office, says Jane. Yeah. I'd say that's about right. You know, Blair completely sort of set the seal on the country as we now know it. Laura says this, have a great time at the live show tonight. Gutted I can't make it, but hoping to come to any other future shows. If you do more, Mike, have fun. We will be doing more. This is very much the sort of beginning of the project, I would say. Ace says this, Sadiq Khan wants us to ignore that terrorists are pretending to be a country. Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis have to go. Labour and Keir fool no one. And that's true. You know, watching Keir Starmer yesterday saying, oh, we're going to clamp down on anti-Semitism, we're going to have another summit meeting, we're going to make very sure that nobody ever thinks anything nasty about Jewish people. You complete plonker, mate. You have no idea. Hevchip says, Starmer has a summit meeting to decide whether or not to wipe. I despise that man. Good luck tonight, everyone. Yeah, everybody does despise him because he is despicable. One from Sheldon, who says, first time viewer, although the F word possibly crosses the line, don't apologise for anything else you said. Millions feel the same way. I tell you what, I only ever use the F word when I'm particularly frustrated by what this country has done and what this government has done to the country. Starmer needs a right hook from Brigitte Macron, says Sean. Yeah, absolutely right. He could do with that. Bit of a slap. Nobody knows where Mrs. Starmer is, by the way. You know, we saw him wandering about in Armenia the other day, looking for all the world like a very, very forlorn, lost little boy. And somebody pointed out to me that actually his new suit has been tailored in a slightly different way. He's now wearing a shorter jacket, which can only mean that somebody's gone, you know what, it's not working with a longer jacket, so why don't we give you a shorter jacket?
Easier to lift his shirt up.
It is easier, quite right, as Pooch points out, it's easier to lift up his shirt when he's wearing a shorter jacket. But somebody also said, is it because he thinks he looks good from the waist down, in the sense that his thighs are worth exposing? Because when you wear a shorter jacket, in terms of being a tailor, it tends to accentuate your thighs. I don't know if any of that stuff is in any way true, but all I do know is that Keir Starmer is a very odd man. Aid says, don't those Plank of the Week caps make the wearer look like they're saying they are the plank? No. You see, that's why Plank of the Week caps are important for people to wear, because if you have some kind of, problem with your own self-esteem, you might think, I'm calling myself a plank. But if you, like me, actually have no problem with your self-esteem, you will wear it as a badge of honour, saying, I know what Plank of the Week is. Maybe I'll send one to Kevin. Should I send one to Kevin O'Sullivan? You know, he can have an official, proper, real Plank of the Week. And just so that you can maybe remember what it is that Plank of the Week is and who decided to come up with the idea for the show. Anyway, listen, the less of that, the better. We've sent an invitation to Shepherd's Bush, but he hasn't answered. I don't know whether he's coming. Who knows? Julie Hartley-Brewer as well. She's been given an invitation, but she's not talking to me at the moment because I don't know why. What can we say? Anyway, listen, we've got lots to do. loads and loads of people to talk to. We are about to now go to our first proper guest after having had. We should do the. Should we do the poll first? Because tonight's show at Shepherd's Bush at the O2, we're saying the question today is who will be the most hammered by the end of the night. This is, as you can probably work out, this was Pooch who came up with this, who's obsessed with the fact that I don't seem to be able to control my drinking. And he says, who will be the most hammered by the end of the night? Will it be Mike? Will it be Donald? Will it be Marilyn Hawes? Or will it be the audience? And I'm happy to report that actually most of you, having seen Marilyn on Plonk of the Week, know what the real answer is. It will be Marilyn Hawes. 41%. In fact, Charlotte has been given, in addition to all of her other duties tonight, a special dispensation to patrol and police the drinking of Marilyn Hawes. So we'll have to instruct the bartenders not to give her any more than one drink per hour. Otherwise, by the time she gets on the stage, she will be absolutely leathered, right? Completely plastered, and will be of no use to man or beast. So hopefully, by the time we get on the stage, we'll all be sober. I'm under strict instructions not to drink before we start the show, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to be very busy during the course of the afternoon because it's a big night for us. This is the beginning of something massive, right? And we're really looking forward to it. Let's speak now, though, to Chris Morrison, who is, of course, from the Daily Skeptic. He is the environmental correspondent and the environment editor, I think. I'm probably doing him a disservice. Chris, a very good morning to you, sir.
Hi, Mike. Indeed, the editor, yes.
Even as we speak, Ed Miliband is kind of walking further and further away from those people who would like him to become the next Prime Minister and saying, oh, no, I don't want to be Prime Minister. I'd much rather be Chancellor. Which worries me even more, because it sounds to me like he thinks that if he becomes Chancellor, that's actually the more powerful job, and he'll be able to order us all around and make sure that we all pay some ridiculous amount of tax in order to be green, and he'll punish us in such a way that not only will we no longer have tumble dryers, but we won't have dishwashers, we won't have washing machines, we won't have televisions, because, it all uses too much electricity.
Yes, and the electricity is too expensive. No, I wouldn't want the sinister Miliband as Chancellor, because he doesn't seem to have much of a grasp of mathematics.
No.
He thinks that wind power is cheap. And nobody else does.
Well, when you're a millionaire, you think everything's cheap, I suppose, don't you?
Yeah, quite. Yeah. No, I think this is the whole thing, that the Labour Party gave up on the working class years ago. They were useless for the struggle. So it's only sort of very rich elite people who vote Labour. A few around here where I live, I can tell you. I'm always amazed that they won't get any seats in working class areas, but they'll still get plenty in the sort of slightly richer middle class areas. Well, for a bit. Except even the people I know are starting to realise, oh dear, I didn't know that it was going to be this bad. Right. But Miliband, I don't think has got any grasp of mathematics at all. Although he wouldn't go for wind farm.
Well, the problem with Miliband, I suppose, is that because he's so wealthy and he's come from this kind of rather well-fed background, he and his brother talk about, we used to play football in the back garden. No, you didn't. You really didn't, because you don't really understand football. You don't really understand what it's like to be a normal person. You grew up in a sort of Marxist household full of very wealthy people in Hampstead who used to come around and talk about Russia and China and how great that was. You kind of sat there thinking, oh, this is really interesting, And so, unfortunately, he can't pretend to be normal. He didn't have a normal upbringing. He's not a normal person. And you can see when he talks now that he's completely nothing, even more deranged than he used to be. And he talks about, the most important thing in the world is to have some kind of, net zero crusade, which will change nothing. And the thing that really annoys me, Chris, is that when he does get in front of somebody on television, they don't say to him, the one question that I would always say to anybody who tries to spout this net zero nonsense, exactly what will happen when we hit net zero. What will change in our lives, and how will we be better off?
As you know, I write a lot about that because I think it's been very important. I've written about it for the last 5 years. Net zero is a great virtue to signal, but what happens when we get to true net zero? And it's an absolute nightmare. It really is. We're starting to see it with... they tried it in America. They were going to get rid of gas furnaces, as they call them, I think boilers. They were going to do other things. And it was a complete pushback on it, because this thing about the dryers... it has no idea of how women who go out to work, for instance, who might do the washing, and men as well, how they actually get the washing done as quickly as they can in the very few spare minutes that they have. And tumble dryers, if you live in a flat, are absolutely vital. But this clown is thinking of getting rid of them. But it's only the beginning of what will happen. I wrote an article recently about, you go for net zero, you stop drilling oil, and that's what they want to do. You will have no medicine in the medicine cabinets. You'll have no fertilizers on the field. I mean, when we're talking about medicines, about 20% of oil is converted into petrochemicals, which are used for plastics, fertilizers, medicines. Medicines, almost the foundation of all medicines, or most medicines, are hydrocarbons. It's very complex carbon chemistry, and they make everything from painkillers to antibiotics to very, very complex cancer drugs. And if you are genuine and you like Miliband, you insist on no more oil, and all the Greens, or the green shirts, as I call them now, are going for this net zero. There will be none of this, and it is an utter disaster. We had the episode of the Private Members Bill last year, where 200 MPs, 200 Muppets who shouldn't be anywhere near the levers of power, all of the Lib Dems, needless to say, all of the green shirts, all of the 80 Labour MPs, and 2, would you believe it, crackpot Conservatives, including people like Sir Roger Gale. They were going to vote for something that would have cut hydrocarbon use, oil and gas, to 10% within a decade. That's not enough to run the emergency services, let alone make the medicines, make the fertilizers, and of course provide all the energy. Even when you have people like Dale Vince going on, this subsidy sort of hunter Dale Vince, who's had £145 million out of the British electricity bill over the last 20 years, and now produces 0.06% of the electricity grid, a grid which itself only produces 20% of the energy that we use.
Yeah.
When all these people talk about stopping oil, this is what stopping oil is all about. It means stopping life. It means stopping society. It means stopping the economic benefits that we've had.
Well, you wrote a piece this week in the Daily Sceptic about how even the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has now admitted that an awful lot of the projections that they predicted would happen over the course of the last 20 or so years are in fact implausible. And I used to say to people as long ago as 10 years ago that in 1989, the Intergovernmental United Nations Planet Climate Change Committee had suggested that Canary Wharf, for example, would be underwater by 2005 or something. And of course, it wasn't. And it didn't happen. And they said that the water would rise up out of the Thames to cover up to the 23rd floor of the 48-storey building. And I'm thinking, well, I was working there at the time, and I thought, crikey, I better get a canoe or something, Luckily, we were on the 47th floor, and I thought, we'll be fine, because obviously, if the water comes lapping up, we can just sort of get out the canoe and walk up the stairs. But, it's all turned out to be complete and utter bollocks, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Complete garbage, yes. But what was worse is that the kids were sent to bed crying. You're a grown man, you realise this is just bollocks, but the kids were sent to bed crying. What's happened? That the story is they have these things called pathways, which are basically a whole load of assumptions that they load into computer models, and they produce these ridiculous ideas that the world will warm up to 4 degrees centigrade by in 80 years' time. This is compared with a base level of 1850 to 1900. The actual warming so far has been about 1.2. So even the utter eco-loons, the Roger Hallams, all these people, as far as I know, don't shout out loud that the world is going to warm by 3 degrees centigrade in less than 80 years. But what they've done is they've taken these assumptions. It's called RCP 8.5. And it includes all sorts of assumptions, such as the fact that we'll use more coal than there is coal reserves up until this time. So all these ridiculous assumptions, which we all knew were impossible. But what they've done is the activist scientists have loaded all these assumptions in their computer models. And they've come up with all these silly stories like, some tortoise in faraway land can only, move 3 meters because of climate change. And you laugh, the BBC...
But it's bonkers, isn't it? It's completely insane.
But this is what's been appearing in the mainstream media. The BBC had a story about beer will be less tasty in future due to climate change, and of course the sea level will rise, meters, and we'll all be drowned. There was one model that used this improbable pathway that was talking about Gloucester Cathedral being underwater or rather lapping on the steps maybe of Gloucester Cathedral by 2050. Gloucester Cathedral is 19 metres above sea level. And of course, what they were doing there is they were aiming at local newspapers. So this for nearly 2 decades has been going on. They've used these implausible pathways. The scientists love them. They load them into their computer models. They produce these ridiculous, wacky
but they call the computer models evidence, don't they? And they go, well, we've got evidence. And you go, all right, let's see the evidence. We made it up. And you go,
yes, it's just made
up.
Yes. Whenever you see King Charles, he's been at it for sort of decades. It's just he's just taking stuff that has been basically made up, but there is a serious point here that almost every mainstream media story, because they amplify, they have the old, we play climate change scare bingo every time you see in brackets scientists say, and that's their out. They can get away with these ridiculous stories, and the mainstream media has been deluged. The BBC is one of the worst offenders, but there are plenty of others in America, Washington Post, New York Times, in fact, all over the world.
But this comes back, I have to say, Chris, this comes back to my bugbear about the media now, which is that they've all been through the kind of, educational ringer, if you like. They've been told for decades, either at primary school, then secondary school, and then university, that climate change is a thing, that we're all going to drown because of the way that we drive around in terribly hard petrol-run cars, and we're all really, really terrible people. And those of us who can make a difference can make a difference. I mean, I saw a story the other day which made me literally guffaw out loud. I don't know if you saw it. It was in the Sunday Times. We put him on Plank of the Week. An EasyJet pilot who became so anxious about the fact that he was flying a plane that he had to end up leaving EasyJet, going back to his family and telling them that not only was he going to get rid of his petrol car and buy an electric car, that they were going to stop eating meat, they were going to stop having any dairy food of any kind whatsoever, and they were going to stop going on holiday anywhere where they couldn't actually fly. And, there's a whole section of people now who have joined some organisation, former members of the aviation world, who don't fly planes anymore because they're so anxious about killing the planet. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you people?
Because and this RCP thing, this RCP ruling, incidentally, what's happened is that the IPCC, they've had a new subcommittee for their new assessment reports, which are coming out in a few years' time, and they've given new pathways, and what they've done is they've abolished the RCP 8.5, and they've called it implausible.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is dramatic news. You won't see it in the mainstream media, of course, because all of their stories, or most of their stories in the last 20 years, are junk. Basically, they're junk. Now, these junk stories have been, as I say, fed into everything that people like, King Charles say, people, as you say, EasyJet pilots are not flying planes. Children are going home crying from school because of this nonsense, because they think, when he was Prince Charles, he said at one point, I think it was in 2010, he said that the world had 96 months basically to live, to pull itself together. You tell that to a child can work out, I'm 6. When I'm 12, the world won't exist. And this is the Prince of Wales at the time saying this nonsense.
Yeah.
Attenborough says similar nonsense. They all say it. I mean, the BBC says it constantly. They've been feeding us this diet for 20 years, and the IPC has now turned around.
And nothing has happened, by the way. Nothing's changed.
Oh no, of course not. No, of course not. No, because it was always, I show you how improbable it is. They're using improbable assumptions. They're loading them into computers that are trying to measure the unmeasurable. You can't measure the atmosphere. It's too chaotic. It's too non-linear. It's just too, we just don't know. The old story about the butterfly flipping its wings in Peru causes a typhoon halfway across the world. That probably doesn't happen, but you just don't know the effects of certain things that happen that then trigger other things in the weather.
Imagine you get a massive volcanic eruption like we got in Iceland that time, or we had that one in Southeast Asia, which shot thousands and thousands of metric tons of gas into the sky, which was far worse in terms of carbon dioxide than anything that anybody ever done driving around in a Maserati for about 67,000 years. And yet they go, oh, but that's okay because it's a natural phenomenon. Well, no, it's the same effect, you complete and utter bloody idiot.
Well, what did you're talking about the Hunga Tonga eruption? That produced 13% more water vapor in the troposphere. It suddenly shot that amount of water into the upper atmosphere, and since then we've had a sort of slightly extraordinary pattern of weather. There has been some, extra warming, partly helped by a strong El Nino. It's coming off now. Of course, you don't see that in the newspapers, but to my mind, it was almost purely natural because most variation in the climate is natural. If you put water vapor is the most powerful greenhouse gas, or it has the effect of warming. It's 4% in the atmosphere, compared with carbon dioxide, which is 0.04% and is actually plant food. You put that sort of amount, and water vapor also warms over the whole infrared spectrum, whereas carbon dioxide is just very, very small parts of it, and it quickly gets saturated, which is why we've had huge amounts more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in the past, and it hasn't affected the temperature. So you put that amount of water vapor into the atmosphere, and it's still there. It's still slowly dissipating out. It's still there, and it's still having an effect on the weather. It's just ignored. As is El Nino. Oh no, we're having global warming. The temperature's going up to 1.7, and all this sort of thing, and we get all the usual stories dripped out in this narrative-based journalism that is nowadays the mainstream media.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking.
And as I say, the IPCC, you can't overestimate how important this ruling is. It's kicked them into touch. It's told them that all these implausible things that you're saying are basically junk. As I say, every story, or most stories you've seen in mainstream media about climate change are not true. We don't know if they're true, but they're essentially junk because they are just made up. By computer model.
You've been saying it for a long time. I've been saying it for a long time. It's all based on a model. It's all based on some assumption that may or may not be true, and it's all rubbish. Quite simple. Chris, great to see you. Chris Morrison there from the Daily Skeptic. I mean, the music to my ears, man, because we've been saying this for years. I've been saying it for years. The whole climate change argument, the whole climate change kind of business, industry, is a complete and utter sham. And it's all about making money for certain people, certain companies, certain kind of, net zero maniacs to rip us all off. We pay subsidies to the electric companies that we pay electricity bills to in order so that they can actually get rich and buy super yachts and buy super cars and buy super flights on planes, on private jets to go places. The whole thing is a complete and utter shibboleth, as far as I'm concerned. Now, we've got loads and loads to do today. Lots and lots of you have got in touch as well. We've got a poll going on about who's going to be the most drunk tonight at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, where we are about to do our first ever live show, which is going to be great. It's literally Mike Graham's show live. Mike Graham and friends. Stephen Barrett's going to be there. We're going to have Right Said Fred. We're going to have Lewis McLeod doing his impressions. Intel Lady's going to be there doing her Angela Rayner. And, of course, Bridget Phillipson. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant stuff. And, of course, Hannah Spencer now, the new Green Party member. We're going to talk about the Green Party and whether they're going to have any inroads this weekend after the votes have been cast tomorrow. And we're going to seek the guidance of Lembit Opik, former MP, of course, and former Minister, I think, for outer space at one point. Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. But we're going to play you a bunch of clips. We're going to sort you out with all of that. Should we do a couple of super chats if we've got them before we go to Lembit? Lots of you have got things to say. This one from TKM, who says, a coalition is the collective noun for cheaters. Is it? I didn't know that. Interesting. That's cheaters with an AHS. Kev Chip says, Starmer has a summit meeting to decide whether to wipe or not. I despise that man. Good luck tonight, everyone. Yeah, I think we all do. We all really do despise him. Super chat from Ace, which has just disappeared. Oh, one from Bobo. Bobo, thank you very much indeed. Anything else going on? Or is that it?
That's it. Oh,
one more. This one from Cindy says, Mike, it really pisses me off that anyone could not be talking to you. Screw those people. Just remember how you were treated. We all love you. Yeah, well, that's all in the past. We don't even worry about that. But I'll tell you what, Lembit Opik is about to talk to us. Front page of the Daily Telegraph, because Lembit used to be an MP in Wales, believe it or not. So Keir Starmer could cost Labour the Senedd for the first time in its 27-year history. And that's according to a warning from the First Minister of Wales, Baroness Morgan of Ely. She says that Starmer is not doing her any favours at all. Well, he's not doing anybody any favours. Lembit, very good morning to you, sir.
And yourself. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I mean, you were an MP in Wales, I think I'm right in saying. It looks as though I'm not sure if Reform have got enough in them to actually get the lead off of Plaid Cymru. But certainly Labour are finished in Wales, which is an extraordinary story in itself, isn't it?
Yes, I think Reform will come second. The Welsh Nationalists, almost incongruously, will come first, given their policy objectives. But the real losers, we can predict already, will be Labour. They've always won. Essentially, they've always won in Welsh elections. When I was leader of the Welsh Lib Dems, the most successful time in the history of the party, I might add, because nobody else is going to say it.
Coincidence.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I got lucky. I never got further than leader of the opposition at that time because Labour was a monolith. But as Eleanor Morgan, who I've known for decades, and I actually think she's pretty good, has conceded. They have a toxic liability at the top of the Labour Party, as does Britain in Downing Street. And that's Keir Starmer. Very interesting. You don't really see him going around doing election campaigning because he's a risk. And so Labour is going to really crash and burn.
Yeah, we saw the story yesterday, extraordinarily, on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, that actually his own party is telling him to stay away. It's like, find places to go. You're kind of going, well, I'm the Prime Minister. All right, well, how do you fancy going to Armenia for the day? Oh, all right, then. Can you stretch it into a 2-day visit? You know, maybe you could stop off in Brussels on the way back. They've literally said, we don't need you on the campaign trail. I don't think, certainly in my memory, there's never been a more unpopular Prime Minister who's actually been warned off by his own party, don't go campaigning.
On Labour's side, for sure. Arguably, Theresa May wasn't a great catch as well. But the reality here is, it's not that we don't need you. We need you not to come. So run off and see your great big friends, Ursula von der Leyen and Macron, giants of politics, not. Yes, and then was it Mercedes-Benz? No, Merz, sorry, in Germany. Those people, you can hang around with them, do anything but stay on the campaigning stump for us. And this is a remarkable situation. This didn't happen with Tony Blair. People may not have liked Tony Blair, but boy, he was an electoral success story. Never lost an election, walked away before that happened. And also, you could say Boris Johnson, for all his foibles, did deliver the goods in the end. There's no prospect at all of Keir Starmer getting a good result. The only question is, how bad is it going to get? Yeah,
I mean, I think this Thursday actually is going to be quite an interesting day for all sorts of reasons. You know, one, I think it's going to be the beginning of the death knell of the Labour Party. I think Labour is finished. I think it might also be the death knell or the beginning of it for the Conservatives, but it certainly will be an opportunity to say we are no longer a two-party state, because we've now got Reform, who are doing terribly well, and we've now got the Greens, who, whether you like them or not, and I don't like them, by the way, are probably going to garner quite a lot of votes as well.
Yeah, that's right. Ismay, who designed the Titanic, stated hours before the ship sank, that sinking was mathematical certainty. That's what's going to happen here. The sinking of the Labour Party on Thursday is a mathematical certainty. And you're right. You mentioned too that Reform didn't do that well in terms of number of seats at one of the general election, but it definitely held the Tories below the waterline in the 24 election. Now, the Greens seem to be doing the same for Labour. This remarkable result in Gorton and Denton, it was a parliamentary by-election, where the Greens actually won it with policies which were basically hate. They weren't pro-climate. There is a climate emergency, by the way. The climate emergency is a political climate, and it's Keir Starmer's climate that's going wrong. But it's incredible. The Greens, who, in my view, are preposterous, as you ably described with your previous guest. There really cannot be a climate emergency, but yet people don't seem to mind that. They're so against Labour, they'll vote for Zach Polanski, who changed his name to connect with his Jewish roots, and then they had very, very dubious campaigning. But none of that seems to matter, because Labour, people are running away from Labour, and a lot of those Labour people don't actually want to vote for Reform UK. They just can't bring themselves to do it. So they vote Green instead. And it's the fracturing of the old two-party system.
Yeah, I mean, the Mail this morning, I don't know if you've seen the front page, has got 30 Green candidates in the elections probed over anti-Semitism. The shocking figure, they say, makes a mockery of party claims that only a handful of those standing in tomorrow's local elections have made hateful comments, and that all of these have been dealt with. Because what we know, for example, and I think it was Steve Reed that wrote a piece at the weekend, and I'm not a fan of Steve Reed, generally speaking, the business secretary, but he said, look, all the nutty sort of Corbynistas who were kicked out of the Labour Party because they were anti-Semitic, have now gone to the Greens. And the Greens are absolutely quite unashamedly anti-Jewish.
There's a certain symmetry in politics. A lot of disillusioned conservatives have drifted across to reform, and that could be a problem if it changes the critical mass of the elected body of reform. In the same way, a lot of disillusioned left-wingers have left the Labour Party, partly because they just can't stand Starmer, and they've gravitated towards the Greens. Now, the Greens have kind of reinvented themselves in a very sloppy way. Now, they're saying if you hate the Labour Party, and if you hate what's going on in Gaza, then vote for us. And they can't decide if they're a Green Party, though they don't really talk about the environment very much anymore, mainly because claiming there's a climate emergency is frankly preposterous, or whether they're kind of a proto-Islamist party, because that's how they ran their by-election in Gorton and Denton. They had foreign language leaflets with pictures of people like Netanyahu saying, if you don't like him, vote for us. I don't like that kind of politics at any time, because it's one step off being anti-Semitic, which is ironic, really, because Zach Polanski, as I said before, has tried to portray himself as Jewish. The more scrutiny they get, the more trouble they'll get, but that will not affect them in the local elections. They will be a protest vote, and they are going to do well.
Yeah, I think so. And how is it possible that the Lib Dems, of your former party, have been so incapable of kind of capitalising on the what you might say is the disenchantment with the two-party system? You'd think the Lib Dems would be the automatic kind of choice for an awful lot of people who would go, you know what, I'm fed up with the Tories, I'm fed up with Labour, I'm just going to go and vote Lib Dem. But they seem to have actually gone down in popularity.
Yes, well, Ed Davey, who I used to share a suite of offices with, Ed Davey has one thing in common with Vladimir
Was he always
Zelensky.
throwing himself on the floor and sort of diving out the window and stuff?
Yeah. Well, he's got that in common with Vladimir Zelensky. They're both professional clowns rather than comedians. Right. It's true. So Zelensky spent more time doing rather questionable things on stage to make people laugh than doing politics. Ed Davey doesn't have that excuse. He just hasn't got the momentum. I don't dislike him as a person. And actually, he's quite affable and he's a pretty good dad. He had problems with the health of one of his children. Yeah. But when it comes to leading the party, he was lucky. After clowning around in 2024, he was fated as being the most successful Lib Dem leader, even more successful than me in Wales. But he'd have done more if he'd actually taken it seriously. Yeah. If it'd been like the late Paddy Ashton, instead of having 72 seats, he might have become the official opposition. And that's the problem. So he just hasn't got the mojo here. I haven't seen them. I tend to have confirmation bias. I still tend to watch what the Lib Dems are doing, and I'm not seeing anything happening there. And that's because he's not leading the party. He's safe, by the way. People are saying, David's going to stand down. He'll only stand down if he chooses to. There's no mechanism to remove him. And once again, he'll point at the 72 seats. They will make gains, mind you. They will make gains. But once again, not as many as they could have, because the disaffected voters are going to Reform and the Greens. Yeah. And Plaid.
Well, I'm going to ask you in a minute who you think is going to be the next leader of the Labour government. But before I do that, we should share at least a moment of clarity with the lovely Angela Rayner. Have a look at what she said a little while ago.
You know this is being recorded, don't you? Because actually, that means one day, if you do, somebody's going to play it back to you.
Absolutely. I'll be happy for you to play it back to me. I have no desire to go for the leadership of the Labour Party. My desire is to deliver for the people of this country who have given me opportunities beyond what I could have dreamed of.
Say the word never.
Never.
Andrew Rader, thank you for your time.
She doesn't want to be leader. Funny when you play those things back, isn't it, for a few months ago?
She's the gift that keeps on taking. My prediction is Angela Rayner. And I don't know, well, basically, there's a couple of interesting things here. For Tony Blair, it was education, a line you actually think he stole from Lenin. Yeah. Now it's, you don't need an education, you can be deputy leader and so forth.
Or even, you can even be chancellor, which some people have suggested she could be. And you kind of go, sorry? I mean, this woman, I'm not sure she can even add up. You know, she certainly doesn't know how to pay tax.
She can't be any worse than what we've got there. What's she called?
Rachel Thieves, as we like to call her.
Rachel Thieves
there she is.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
she's useless. But she's not a contender. But I like that. I like that a lot. Clever. The reality here is that Angela Rayner's got to be the front runner. Other possibilities. are Ed Miliband, who's also said he's got no plans to try again.
Well, he wants to be Chancellor because he figures that he's got a better chance of actually pushing his net zero madness through the civil service if he's Chancellor than if he's Prime Minister.
Well, these prospects are literally blowing in the wind. And the problem with this, I'm not going to compete with your better comedians on that one, but he's going to come back.
It's not bad.
Well, I say it often.
You're just missing the bacon sandwich, Lembit, and he'll be fine.
Oh, I use that picture often myself. Then you got David Lammy, who also isn't exactly the reign of Britain. He thought that Henry VII came after Henry VIII on Mastermind. And then possibly we've got in the wings.
Also, did he not? He also thought, I think, Marie Antoinette invented penicillin, didn't he?
No, he said that the surname of Marie and Pierre, who won a Nobel Prize for Physics in 1903, was Antoinette. And while we're at it, he thought the blue cheese that you traditionally drink with port is Red Leicester.
It was Red Leicester, yeah.
So he's a contender. I do hope Angela gets it, because that would be hilarious. And also,
well, do you know who is kind of going very quiet on the sidelines? And actually, Pooch, my producer, has just told me that he's put on 14-1, Yvette Cooper, who's gone very quiet. And who kind of sits around in the background and continues to, in the only way you can do in the Labour government, sort of, keep getting, promoted. And she's now Foreign Secretary. To my mind, she's not done anything. She was useless as Home Secretary. She was useless in whatever she did before that. She's been useless as Foreign Secretary. So it makes perfect sense that she'd probably be the next Prime Minister.
Well, I'd rather have a useless one than a dangerous one. And so I'd rather have her impotence. But the idea of her being leader, I mean, this is the woman who got interviewed by her own husband, and I guess they hoped nobody knew. I mean, it is ridiculous. Ed Balls, they are presumably still married. And this is the weird thing. We've got this cabal who promised change. I was going to bring change in. And the change is everything's worse. Somehow, come on.
I know.
I didn't take what's better for the better.
I'll have a summit meeting. Let me play, before I let you go, I'm going to play you this, because your Miliband impression, your STARMER impression, very good. This is Miliband doing Miliband, talking about the cost of living. Have a look at this.
The single biggest issue for the last 20 years in British politics, which hasn't been properly addressed, is the cost of living crisis. If I've got a way of helping to tackle that cost of living crisis, including through solar farms, I'm not going to say no to that, because I think the cost of living crisis is too important for us to ignore, to walk on by on the other side.
Yeah. He wants to bring in solar farms to everybody, but he himself does not have any solar panels on his house, even though in the part of London in which he lives, there is an actual benefit and a subsidy for putting solar panels on your house. He hasn't done it.
I do, and they're absolutely useless. Do not get solar panels. I walked his talk. His answer's blowing in the wind. The reality here is he's caused a lot of the economic crisis, because we've got rid of cheap energy. We're all sitting on top of tons of coal, which actually is a good thing to burn. Like your previous guest said, carbon dioxide is actually the gas of life. So we've got gas, we've got shale gas, we've got oil, but instead we import oil from Norway. It's the same oil, folks. So we've got this totally incompetent government and people like Ed Miliband who literally still seem to think that burying 22 billion pounds worth of CO2 is smarter than letting trees do it for us. Honestly, this is going to be an extraordinary day tomorrow. The local government elections will absolutely sock it to Keir Starmer. The only question is whether those candidates who want to take over are in a position to launch a campaign. I think that probably Starmer will get pushed out because the Labour MPs don't want to lose their seat. And I think the election campaign will have to be settled the decision will be settled by the next Labour conference.
Oh, yeah, no question at all. I mean, I'm hoping it will be sooner rather than later, but he certainly doesn't last beyond September and the sort of autumnal season. Final question to you, Lembit, and it's been great talking to you. Some people are saying, are you in some kind of space sauna?
Yes, well, this is actually one of the things I still campaign for. The first permanent human space habitation. We come in peace, and I can do that automatically now.
Very well done.
To kill. Yes, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Still campaigning.
There's a Green Party mayor candidate in Hackney called Zoe, who looks as if she's actually in Star Trek. If you look at, there's a couple of clips out there that we put out yesterday where she looks literally like she's come off the Starship Enterprise.
It's life, Jim, but not as we know it.
Brilliant. Captain, the engine's Kelly Ticket. Let me open it. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Star Trek references, very welcome. Any number of you can say what you like about it.
Can I break the laws of politics?
You can break the laws of politics. Captain, should we do some... all right, that's enough. Get rid of him. What are you doing? I've told him to go. Yeah, Charlotte, because she likes him, just keeps him on. He can't stay for the whole show. Get rid of him. Anyway, listen. Tonight at Shepherd's Bush, if you wish to come, there are still a few tickets available, and you don't want to miss it. People are asking if we're filming it. Well, the answer is we're not filming it. I've just been told that the people who are going to come and film it are now told us that we think they can't do it. So it's now not going to be filmed. So the only way you're going to see it is to come and see it. So I'm afraid, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Just get yourself a ticket. It's going to be a bargain. It's going to be a great night. Do not miss it, because people will be talking about it for years to come. And when you run into somebody at the bus stop and they go, "Did you go to that show?" And you go, "No," it's going to be awful. Hi, Mike. Good morning from Phnom Penh in Cambodia, says Richard. Thank you, Richard. I think we've already got that on the map. But if we haven't, I'll get Charlotte or Pooch to stick a pin in it. Also coming up very shortly, we're going to talk to Lee Harris. We've also got Mike Fairclough coming up. We've got Angela Levin on the Royals. We've got Kelly J. Keane as well. I'm sure she's got lots to say about the trans problem in this country. Also Graham Linehan's victory. And also we're going to talk to David Ellis, who is a defence and political lobbyist, who's going to tell us about why he believes that the fight against the veterans of this country, particularly by this awful, ghastly, useless Labour government, is despicable and should not be entertained by anybody sensible. We haven't done Edward Hughes with the news, have we? So we better do a bit of that. And then we'll be back with Lee Harris.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. It is Wednesday, 6th of May, 2026. Local elections are tomorrow, so the parties are in full please like me mode while borrowing costs hit a 28-year high. Perfect timing for Labour to explain why your energy bills might freeze you out this winter. Santander is shutting more branches because apparently we all bank via an app now, and 13,000 flights are cancelled thanks to jet fuel shortages. Nothing says summer plans like come cry with me. The terror threat is now severe. Hate crime prosecutions are being fast-tracked amid anti-Semitism worries. And a British crew member is being urgently evacuated from a Hunter virus hit cruise ship. Because what this country really needed was more things that can ruin your holiday. Stay safe, vote wisely, and maybe stock up on loo roll, just in case. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tiger.
He's looking normal again, isn't he? He looks as though his life has returned. And he's, the mohawk's gone, he's back with his missus, and all's right with the world with Edward Hughes. We shall see. Now, before we speak to Lee Harris, have a look at this, because one of the big guests we're going to have tonight, which I'm really, really looking forward to, is Lewis McLeod, Donald McLeod's brother. I was out with Donald last night, and I managed to get away from him by about 10 o'clock, which was quite some effort, I have to say. I had to hand him the wine we were drinking and say, "Look, take it home. I'm going," right? I literally had to give him half a bottle of red wine. I'm like, "I'm not drinking that. Take it back to your hotel." Oh, fine. Anyway, his brother Lewis, who is a brilliant mimic, is going to be there tonight. Have a look at this.
Great job. It is a great honor for you to hear me tell you about the latest war I've ended. I'm stopping wars everywhere. 7 since I began this speech, including the War of the Roses, the War of the Worlds, War for Planet of the Apes, War Horse, World War Z, Star Wars, and the Civil War in America. I'm working on that one in the moment. The latest one was in Ukraine. And I said to President Zelensky, not a very nice person, not a grateful person, not a great guy, I said, "Guess how I'm going to end this war?" And he said, "I give up." And I said, "Absolutely right."
That's a flavour of what he's going to be doing tonight. But he doesn't just do Donald Trump. He does a great Nigel Farage. He does a brilliant Brian Cox. Not the sort of tosser Scotsman. Not to be confused with the other Brian Cox. And look at the sky. That one. That's the one he does. And also, he does Ian McKellen. He does a brilliant George Galloway. By the way, we've been reaching out to George Galloway. We're going to get him on the show soon. He's in somewhere like Indonesia. Yeah, he's sort of disappeared from Britain. He's somewhere between Russia, Iran, and Indonesia. But we're going to get him on because he's got lots to say, not least about the firebombing trial that's going on in London right now, which we haven't heard much about this week, actually. I haven't seen too much going on with it. Lewis is fantastic and so funny, says Seaside Baby. He really is, and he's there tonight, so you don't want to miss it. So there's the last chance for you, right? It looks like we're not going to be able to film it for some reason, so just turn up and come and get yourself a ticket. It's not that much, and it will be the time of your life, and it will be the night to remember. It will be absolutely brilliant. Right now, though, let us speak to Lee Harris, a man after our own hearts, a very sensible young man who, for the last, 2 years probably, I would say, has been as frustrated as the rest of us about Keir Starmer. Tomorrow, Lee, very good morning to you. We all get the chance to show. I wrote a piece in my Substack yesterday to say, this could be the last time you can complain about Keir Starmer's government because, next time you vote, he won't be in charge.
That's it. Yeah. It's going to be a big day tomorrow for so many reasons. I want to actually know whether it is going to be as consequential as we all think it is. Nigel Farage has been campaigning on vote reform, get rid of Keir Starmer, which I absolutely love. And I know it's annoyed a few people who don't really understand the link. But obviously the idea is that if you can destabilise I think you agree with me on this one, Mike. I think we both want chaos, as much chaos as possible within the Labour Party, hopefully not as much within the country to avoid us a little bit of pain. But this, destabilising of the Labour Party, chaos within the ranks, can only, in my view, bring us about an early election. So I'm really hoping, in fact, I know expectations are going to be very, very high for reform tomorrow, but I think they're going to deliver. I just sense it. I think we can all smell it in the air that Keir Starmer is finally going to get some comeuppance from the public, and he's not going to be able to avoid the backlash from his party. I mean, as we know, they're already on manoeuvres. Ed Miliband, I think the main 3 or 4 people that we've been talking about over the last sort of week or so or longer is Ed Miliband, Angela Rayner, possibly Andy Burnham, although he's got a couple of hoops to jump through before he can get there. And if I haven't said in Wes Streeting already, which I think I have. But as you can tell, Mike, from that rabble, there isn't any talent within the Labour Party. It's going to be an absolute disaster. I'm thoroughly looking forward to tomorrow. I don't know what the timings are, but no doubt it'll probably be a late night. But I should be staying up and watching every single glorious minute of it.
Well, one of the things that's always puzzled me is why local government elections are so badly reported, because some of them, I was talking to Russell Quirk about this yesterday, some of them are not even going to start counting until Friday morning. It's like, do your bloody duty. This is what happens. They pick up all the votes, they put them all in a box, they take them to the sort of, the counting centre, and then they all go home to bed. And they go, and you kind of go in, sorry, you've got a duty to actually tell us what's going on out there. And then they go, oh, we'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So what I'm told is that there will be some indication coming in from sort of, 1 to 2 a.m. of some of the things. And if it becomes obvious that, say, Reform have won some very, very significant seats that they never won before, and that Lib Dems or Labour occupied, you might be able to extrapolate it. But generally speaking, we won't really have the full picture of how it's all gone until probably sometime on Saturday.
Yeah, that is genuinely a bit rubbish. It's because it's not the main event, Mike, probably. The locals don't seem as big as obviously the generals, and you probably got the B team running it, and like everything else with the public sector, if it's like anything I've been dealing with the tax office this week, you don't hear back from them for over a week. So maybe we're lucky to get the results by Saturday. But yeah, it is a bit of a shambles. It always reminds me of watching Sunderland. Sunderland on the general election is like some sort of Olympic sport. Right. Absolutely fantastic. Sunderland, you should be just running the whole local.
When everybody goes in Sunderland, there's a job going. They don't move that quick. But when you go, can you get the ballot box from point A to point B? It's like, we can do that. It's funny, very funny.
Yeah, compare that to what it'd be like on the locals. Someone will arrive in their car, the boxes will be in another car. It'd be an absolute disaster. But no, genuinely though, I am looking forward to it. I really do hope that this does spark off what we're expecting, which is a leadership contest. And and I don't know who I've got my money on. I think the person I don't want to get it, probably because they have the most semblance of normality, would be Wes Streeting.
Yeah.
I think Wes Streeting probably can ride, for want of a better phrase, Labour into the next election. Having said that,
well, he could be riding
he's not
on
very
the back
popular.
of Peter Mandelson, if you'll pardon the expression.
Yeah, I knew that joke was coming. But yeah, there is too much baggage with Wes Streeting. You got the Peter Mandelson friendship, and he's not very popular within the party at all. Then you've got Angela Rayner, who's really popular within the party, but absolutely useless as a human being, full stop. Yeah. But she also has baggage. She hasn't even paid her tax back, as far as I'm aware. Still under investigation from HMRC.
I mean, nobody says this anymore in the mainstream media, because apparently they're not allowed to criticise her because she's a working class girl from the north of England. But she plundered her own son's disabled trust fund to buy a flat in Brighton, or Hove, shall we say. And nobody seems to think there's anything wrong with that. And I'm going, hang on, you sued the NHS, right? Who she basically was defending the other day, sued the NHS, got a load of money from the taxpayer, basically, from the NHS, gave it to her son in order for him to live a decent life, and obviously, if he's disabled, that's exactly as it should be. But apparently it was the NHS's fault that he became disabled. And she's now attacking Nigel Farage and Reform, saying, they're going to privatise the NHS, and it'll be a terrible thing. And she actually went as low as to say that if Reform were in charge when I was growing up, my child would have probably died. This is so ridiculous. I mean, what sort of nonsense would you have to be impaled by in order to think that was a good idea?
I honestly can't stand her. And this is coming from someone, when she first got into politics, I thought she was all right. I quite like the fact that we had somebody who's working class making it as an MP. That, by the way, I agree with you, Mike, doesn't mean anything. It's just nice to see once in a while, that's all. But she's the world's biggest hypocrite, this woman. I mean, talk about the tax stuff. She got a £17,000 payout after she was sacked for not paying her stamp duty. Now, check this out, right? She took 17 grand payout. She tabled a motion herself to stop ministers getting that very payout. Yes. I mean, you literally couldn't make it up. And there she is, taking this payout. I had respect for her, Mike, until she started basically calling anyone like me scum. If you're a Brexiteer, if you're a Brexiteer, or if you're on a conservative, you have conservative values, then basically you are scum, according to Angela Rayner. And at that point, I lost all respect for her.
Well, it takes you back down to the root. A lot of people are asking me, why on earth is Lee, a relatively sensible person, got a picture of that maniac Dave Paulden behind him with his gap tooths and his...
I figured we were going to talk about this idiot today, so I had him on my...
No, it's a good idea, because we are going to talk about this idiot today, because he has literally... His popularity has fallen off a cliff. I don't know if you saw yesterday, there was a poll that came out in which his popularity, which was riding pretty high, actually above Nigel Farage's, has now literally fallen off a cliff, thanks to his unfortunate support for the alleged terrorist in Golders Green, who was kicked in the head by the police. He came out and said, or he retweeted a tweet from somebody who was suggesting that was police brutality. And he hasn't apologised for it. He took the tweet down, but what he said at the weekend was, I'm just sorry I did it in the public sphere of Twitter when I should have just had a private conversation with the police. So he obviously still believes that the police were wrong to kick the alleged terrorist in the head.
Yeah, and those interviews at the weekend, Mike, were proper car crash. I know I use that word a lot, but that was a proper car crash. That was a pile-up. I mean, on every appearance he did, it was awful. And like you said, when he was asked about the... I found that one of the most gut-wrenching moments, actually, because there were a couple of gut-wrenching moments. But when he turned around and didn't apologise and arrogantly said two things which struck me as probably one of the most arrogant things I've ever heard a politician say. Firstly, like you said, he just didn't apologise. Right. He made it very specific that he was apologising for just doing it on X.
Yes.
But his views were exactly the same. And the second thing that he that was really, really bad about all of this was when he arrogantly said, Mark Rowley's written to me and I've spoken to him and I've invited him to come and talk to me and have a meeting. I'm glad he's accepted to come and see me. Right. And I'm like, mate, you're just a London Assembly member. You're literally a nobody.
I mean, a lot of people say to
and that
me,
was
actually,
really bad.
And I don't know if you know the rule on this. And I'm William Clouston, I know, is head of the SDP, and he's not in Parliament. But surely, if you've got members of Parliament, i.e., 5 MPs in the House of Commons voted in by the populace in Westminster, how can he be the leader of the party when he doesn't even have a seat?
It is bizarre, isn't it? But I think that's a quirk with basically just anybody can be a leader. And we've seen bizarre things like that in the Green Party before. They've had dual leaders, haven't they? Like partnership leaderships, and they do whatever they like. Yeah, it is bizarre. Just like Zelensky himself, he's incredibly weird. And the other thing that really, I think the public have found unpalatable about Zach Polansky is this phraseology that he used to describe Jewish people and the horrific attacks that they've experienced over the last year or so, saying about it being a perception of fear. He used the word perception of fear, and he got absolutely torn to shreds on this.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's have a look, actually. We've got a clip, I think, of him talking yesterday about what he wants to happen on polling day.
If you're watching this video, we need your help. It's time to get more Greens elected than ever before. It's time to stand up to reform. Council seats across the country could come down to fewer than 100 votes. These last few days of door knocking, leafleting and phone banking are crucial. It's looking really close. There is no time to waste. Getting polling day right could make the difference of up to 10%. That's really the difference between losing or winning. This final push, we need your support right now. Sign up to Phone Bank and get out on polling day. Take action over these crucial last days and help us deliver change.
Why is he in a church?
I honestly, I have no idea about his media stuff. On the other one, he took his jacket off and put his jacket back on, and then literally spouted off a load of facts that weren't facts. The guy is genuinely an idiot. And what I'm so pleased about, I'm so pleased that the mask has slipped. Because like you, probably, I've been sat here thinking, what is this country coming to, Mike? When a reasonable amount of people are voting for this absolute lunatic. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter whether it's himself. I mean, let's just put someone else in the leader of the Green Party. They're still an absolute bunch of I'll be very careful when the way I say this. In my view, my personal opinion, Mike, is that party is basically just attracted a whole bunch of Jew-hating anti-Semites. They've been infiltrated by Islamists. Their policies are absolutely batshit crazy. I just honestly, it surprised me and worries me that this man has been able to garner so many votes. But it does feel like now that the mask is slipping and the public are finally seeing him for what he is, a vile individual.
But you know, Lee, what's also really worrying is the amount of airtime that he gets from the BBC. You know, again, I think he's been on Laura Kuenssberg's show every Sunday for about 4 weeks. You know, and he gets interviewed all the time by Sky. And, you know, yes, sometimes Trevor Phillips and others, you know, expose him for what he is, which is a complete and utter, you know, clown, as you've said before, and a plank. But he's getting way too much publicity, where he should be treated as a sort of fringe candidate. He should not be being given equal status. But of course, all of these bozos go, oh, we've got to give equal status because, you know, he's a minority party, but an awful lot of people like him. You know, an awful lot of young people like him, a lot of sensible people, when they grow up and actually realise that they're not teenagers anymore, just don't want anything to do with him because, as you say, he's dangerous, he's hateful, he's anti-Semitic, even though he's Jewish, which is kind of weird. And he has really, really, really come to the fore in a time only because people are anti-Semitic. You know, I wrote a piece yesterday on my Substack, and I've mentioned it a couple of times. You know, Britain under Keir Starmer has become an anti-Semitic country. I did a podcast with a guy called Ariel Whitman in Israel just last week. And he said, what's going on in Britain? Why has Britain become this terrible anti-Jewish country? Because that's how we are now sort of perceived by other countries around the world.
I completely agree. I think Jeremy Corbyn sparked them off a little bit, gave them something to run with. It died down a little bit. And then under Keir Starmer, obviously we had the horrific October the 7th terrorist attack. And since then, it's just gone mad. And I think it is right to blame both the Conservatives and Keir Starmer for this. They've both just basically allowed it. They turned a blind eye to these hate marches every single weekend in London, not just London, across the country. And in my view, that's really has emboldened these sickos, knowing that they're not really going to get in much trouble with the police if they're carrying blatantly anti-Semitic slogans and chanting vile chants like "Globalise the Intifada" from the river to the sea, and because that's been allowed, it's set the standard.
By the way, doesn't think is a problem. He thinks that's okay. He wouldn't ban it.
Yeah, absolutely bizarre. And I saw in the papers this morning, 30 Green candidates are being probed. I just don't think. I think Zach Polanski is very quickly going to realise, or whoever takes over from that he hasn't got a viable party if he goes down this route. He just simply hasn't. He is going to attract and is attracting some of the most vile, worst people in society. And I just don't think you can physically stand as a Green candidate. Here's another thing I might get in trouble for if I was being Ofcom regulated, but I'm not. I just think that if you are a Green candidate, if you are standing as a Green candidate now, you either have to be absolutely like a lunatic, like certified lunatic, or an anti-Semite. And there's nothing in between. So there's no point vetting anyone, because you know full well, it's just the same as if I went to one of those hate marches, Mike. If I went and spoke to any of them, even the nice ones, and I asked them what their views about Hamas were, every single person you speak to will have a soft spot for Hamas. I know that because I've been to these marches, and I've done that myself. Friends of mine have held up signs saying Hamas are terrorists, and they've been attacked by just random people on these marches. It's going to be the same with Green Party candidate interviews, Mike. They're not going to have a single person that isn't an anti-Semite or a nutter.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely shocking. Lee, perfectly good common sense language coming out of your mouth there. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. See you soon. And tomorrow we will see whether the populace of this country actually does what Lee says, which is to suddenly sharpen up your brain, straighten up your back and go, actually, you know what? I'm going to vote for the most sensible candidate that I can. And it won't be Green, it won't be Labour, it won't be Tory, it won't be Lib Dem, and it will probably be Reform. Right, so let us know. Coming up, we've got some news. We're also going to talk to Angela Levin. Also, I'm going to be giving you my meltdown on Rachel Reeves, Richard III, who has now been more damaging to our economy than anyone in the history of our modern day sort of treasury scenario. Let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. It is Wednesday, 6th of May, 2026. Local elections are tomorrow, so the parties are in full please like me mode while borrowing costs hit a 28-year high. Perfect timing for Labour to explain why your energy bills might freeze you out this winter. Santander is shutting more branches because apparently we all bank via an app now, and 13,000 flights are cancelled thanks to jet fuel shortages. Nothing says summer plans like come cry with me. The terror threat is now severe. Hate crime prosecutions are being fast-tracked amid anti-Semitism worries, and a British crew member is being urgently evacuated from a Hunter virus-hit cruise ship. Because what this country really needed was more things that can ruin your holiday. Stay safe, vote wisely, and maybe stock up on loo roll, just in case. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Edward Hughes, thank you very much indeed for the news. He seems to have recovered his sanity, seems to have recovered his composure, and he's back doing what he does best. So thank you to all of you who sent your best wishes to him when he was in a bit of trouble after the breakup of his marriage, which he's now seemed to have sorted out, which is a good thing. Can only be a good thing. Coming up, we've got Kelly J. Keane to talk to. We've got Mike Fairclough to talk to. We've got David Ellis, who's going to be talking to us after 9:30 this morning on the new channel, which is, of course, UK Live Online. We'll be talking to him about, the betrayal of the veterans of this country. We'll also be telling you more about how at the show tonight that we're going to do live down at Shepherd's Bush, at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, we're going to have a contingent of people from We Served, which is, of course, the... I always get it wrong when I say a forces charity. It's not a charity. They point out that they are an organisation which helps, basically, veterans get themselves back into work, back into society if they've had a few problems, and helps them get housing as well. It's a fantastic organisation, and what they're actually trying to do at the moment is to raise funds in order to actually get more and more of them trained up as therapists so that they can actually help each other when they've got troubles like PTSD and all the rest of it. So we'll be bringing you all of that coming up later on tonight. And if you haven't got a ticket, yet, get yourself one, because it's going to be the night to remember. It's going to be a night of the year, actually. And if you're not there, you'll be sitting around tomorrow going, I wish I'd gone. I just wish I'd decided to go. Angela Levin, I think, is here with us, royal author extraordinaire. Let's find out what she's got to say about all sorts of things royal related. Angela, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Getting through. Thank you.
I mean, funnily enough, last week was the big week, wasn't it, when King Charles went over to America, and I thought did a brilliant job of cementing our relationship with the United States, having had it destroyed by Keir Starmer. And I thought he did a fantastic job in Bermuda, and was really, proof, if we needed it, that he is an exemplary asset of the United Kingdom.
Yes, I mean, he was a huge success, actually. Thousands of people really loved him. And it was very nice to see, because he's attacked by lots of people in the UK and saying he's hopeless and get rid of him. But actually, he knows exactly how to run being a king. And I thought he's been absolutely wonderful. And I couldn't understand how he could work so hard when he still is having cancer. And I just thought that was amazing, that his energy stayed with him the whole time. But what he loves doing that. He loves seeing people. He loves being with people. He cared with everyone, from small children, from anybody who wanted to talk to him. He's fascinated by people. And you see that and you say, thank goodness we've got a king like this.
And absolutely right. And he sort of, he looked terribly well, actually, I thought, for somebody who is suffering from cancer and who has been undergoing chemotherapy. And I think he took a break from it in order to take the trip. But the other thing that I thought was really interesting was that, before he went, there were all the lefties going, oh, we shouldn't go and meet Donald Trump. It will be embarrassing. Trump will say something. He won't know how to deal with it. He'll make some remark about Keir Starmer. And Donald Trump, actually, is also a very clever man. And he knew that was not the time to do it. So he was very enamoured by the visit. He was very enamoured by the King and the Queen. And he was never going to do that. And I just find it really embarrassing that our media, Angela, and I count the newspapers and the television companies and all the rest of it, are so cravenly hatred filled by Donald Trump that they think everything that involves Donald Trump is going to be a terrible mistake. Brian Cox, for example, the actor, was on Laura Kunsberg's show saying he shouldn't go, he should not go because it's demeaning. It's complete and utter rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he loves the UK king, so that he behaved very well.
Yeah.
But I must say there's something that I felt very upset about. When he walked off, because he moves very fast, going, and he left behind the king. So he was trying to catch up with him, to go around and see everyone. And I thought, hang on, stay still a minute. He didn't do that. And the other thing, I have to say, was that Camilla, I thought, was marvellous. She was absolutely a rock looking after her husband, there to sort of give him strength. But when they were walking down the line, shaking hands with someone, Trump suddenly decided he wanted to go first. So he sort of pushed in front of her and went on. So you see there that he's got amazing behaviour when he really wants to, but he's not actually, that's why he adores the king, because he's so respectable.
Right. And because, but I mean, I know the moment you're talking about, and I don't think we've got it to show you right now, but I was under the impression that the reason that he looked as though he was jumping in front of Camilla was that she was actually shaking hands with the Americans, and behind them were the Brits. And so Donald Trump was shaking hands with the Brits, she was shaking hands with the Americans, and it was it looked bad, but he wasn't actually usurping anything from her.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear that.
Yeah, that was the theory that I was told anyway. But let's talk about our other favourite subject, which is, of course, Harry and Meghan. No sign of them in King Charles's visit to the United States, and they didn't come to Washington, they didn't go to Bermuda, they were instead hiding out in Montecito. We keep reading about the fact that they're now literally running out of friends and money.
Yes, well, it's their own fault, isn't it? I think that actually they're furious they haven't been invited They weren't invited.
Mm.
But if you think of it sensibly, the King and Camilla were incredibly busy. You can't actually take a huge lump out of it and then go and see them.
Right.
So although they wouldn't have them anyway, I think it would have been very wrong if they'd done that, because he must have been very tired. It was very demanding, and he doesn't want to have a row in the middle, because Harry would start really blowing up and being very nasty. And if Meghan was there as well, she's got every chance of being horrendous. So
yeah.
you have to, and also you can't trust anything that either of them will see or be contact with. So he had to be very careful to keep away from them. And I think it was done very well. And why should they be invited? And they are, behaviour at the moment is just absolutely appalling. As you know, Catherine is going away to Italy next week and is going to talk about young children and young families. And I bet you that Meghan will be doing something absolutely just the same just before Catherine's going. She is so angry about what's going on and she can't bear it. She's also organising another wedding with Harry, so that she wants to show how much they love each other. They obviously don't. You look at them and you can see, my goodness, it's all gone.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the
so,
interesting thing as well about Donald Trump was that, I don't know if you remember, just before the King arrived, Harry turned up unexpectedly in Ukraine, and everyone was kind of like, what's he doing there? And he started, I don't know if you noticed this, and I put it out as a tweet at the time, he started talking in this kind of really weird, kind of what you might call mid-Atlantic accent, where he sounds almost French, and he's kind of said, well, you know, well, you know, and it's kind of like, what, is that American? Is it French? Is it English? What on earth are you saying? And when it was put to Donald Trump that Harry had said, you know, that America should be doing more to seek peace, and he said, who? Prince Harry. How is he? And it was just really funny. And then, how's his wife? And, you know, he clearly holds them in complete and utter disdain, has no time for them, and is never ever going to want to talk about them, you know.
The last thing he said about it, says, he's ruined that man. She's ruined that man.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And she has. He's right.
Oh, gosh, yes, absolutely. But he doesn't care. He's happy to say it because that's what he feels. And actually, very interestingly, that it has been repeated here. Nobody's kept quiet about it. So, you know, everybody is fed up with both of them, dislikes both of them, and actually will support the King.
Yes.
Which I'm very pleased about.
Well, I think we should all be. Story in the Mirror today about Harry and Meghan. Apparently, Princess Meghan, I call her that just with my tongue very firmly in my cheek, has apparently got a new partnership with an AI-driven shopping platform, right? And the Mirror is saying that it could jeopardise Harry's security battle. She's apparently got into bed with some organisation called One Off.
I thought you were going to say into bed with somebody else.
Yeah, well, there is that. Apparently she's into bed with this company called One Off, which allows her to earn a portion of profits of her outfits sold on the shopping platform. And apparently she's going to put all of her outfits that she wore in Australia on this shopping platform so people can buy them, right? I'm not sure if anybody's interested. However, apparently, because she's doing this on her faux royal tour, it will apparently impact his ability to claim that he's doing sort of, you know, good works on behalf of the state. Therefore, he needs, you know, state-sponsored security, because they're going to go, sorry, mate, what you're actually doing is running a commercial enterprise. Your wife is making a load of money, so you pay for your own bloody security.
Yes, but I think she's trying to destroy him, isn't she, anyway? She's not actually
I suspect
building
she's had enough of him, I would imagine, hasn't she?
Yes, and so the more she can make his life difficult, the happier she is, really.
Yes.
And I think that the fact that she was doing this about her clothes that she wore on the beach, where there'd been a terrible thing of Jewish people being killed, and to do that and then try and make a lot of money out of it, it just has you can barely talk about it.
Yeah.
But she's now only interested in money, 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 money. And that's because they've lost a lot. Someone said to me that Harry had £20 million left from his mother, Diana, and now it's virtually gone. So they're just spending out because she wants jewelry and clothes and things like that. And they don't have much money, but she's got no behaviour, has she? That's a disgusting thing to do.
No, I know.
Completely unnecessary. And she's going to go head for head to get more money.
Yes. Yes, it's a very unedifying process altogether. But Angela, listen, great to see you. We haven't spoken for a while, so very good to have you back. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. Angela Levin, royal biographer, royal author, of course, who wrote a book about Prince Harry in the good old days when people actually thought he wasn't a bad guy before he got hooked up to this kind of horrible commercial exercise and enterprise that he's now involved in with Meghan. Speaking of which, of course, we still see loads and loads of pictures from the Met Gala from this week, which are so vacuous that I'm not even going to bother showing them to you because there's far more important things to talk about and far more important people to talk to, including Mike Fairclough, who joins me now, who we haven't spoken to for a while, but who is always a voice of common sense and always a very good person to sort of centre yourself with, to remember what is actually important in life. Mike, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Can you hear me and see me?
I can hear you and I can see you, so we're all good. Everything's going well.
I actually, I started, I switched. I was doing a bit of like you. I'm into my exercise, and I was going to. I like to listen to podcasts and bits and pieces whilst I'm doing stuff, and I thought I'll tune into Mike now, and I just got you at the point where you were having a fantastic tirade and calling Keir Starmer an effing plank at the point where all your crew were just going no like this. It's like you could almost imagine people like diving in front of the screen. It was like absolutely awesome. That's got to be clipped.
It will be. I mean, the thing is, we try really hard because, I mean, I always quote the Howard Stern story, which when Howard Stern, who was this incredibly, some people don't like him because he's very outrageous, but when he was the sort of king of radio in America, and he was always getting banned because he would come out with some terrible things and some of the stuff he did was terribly tasteless and all the rest of it. But when he ended up on a sort of independent platform, which is called Sirius XM, which is an amazing satellite radio network, he said, when there was no restrictions, actually I sort of stopped swearing because there was nothing to fight against, and we could swear all the time. And so I sort of try to live by that rule. But sometimes I just I'm so annoyed by Keir Starmer and so frustrated by him that sometimes I just have to say the F word because I literally can't help it. Because he has ruined this country, hasn't he?
Yeah, but also just to say, it's like swearing. I think it's seasoning, isn't it? It's like it's flavour in a kind of. It's like so, and actually that was just perfect. It was beautiful and said with passion. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't. It's like Stephen was saying. The whoever's replaced, the same kind of stuff will happen. But I know we've spoken about this before, but I would say. It's the same for any political party. So he's just like a puppet, really, or the rest of them. And there's that. And the thing is, I get sort of drawn into the promises at election time of like, we're going to do something about illegal immigration. We're going to do this, going to do that. And there's this sort of addiction to sort of hope almost.
Yeah.
And then every single time without fail, whoever gets in, the same stuff happens, and that's because we have an immovable permanent civil service and what I would call the deep state. I know you don't use that term, but it's that's the issue. And you can put these guys, these guys are just the veneer. I mean, there is something kind of useful about Labour being so bad because they can't pretend to be good. Well, they do try to pretend to be good, but it's so bad that you can then. It feels like there can be more of an uprising and a rebellion against it. And but then, of course, like with Keir as well, he's like he goes right back to his days of being head of the CPS and the extremely dodgy stuff he did there. For example, with stuff to do with paedophilia, he was part of a lot of meetings. I think it was 21 different meetings, which lowered the severity in terms of punishment of various things regarding paedophilia. And of course, he had all that Jimmy Savile stuff as well.
Right.
There's been
which he didn't notice, of course, right? It's nothing to do with him, right?
Well, yeah, and no one buys that. And then you've got this, this industrial scale Pakistani rape gang cover up, which of course includes the Conservatives as well. And that's the point. It's like whether it's the Tories or Labour, it's the same kind of stuff goes on. And for me, the benchmark, my kind of guiding star is always, what is the impact on our children nationally, but also internationally as well. And so that's when I sometimes veer away from, it's like whatever groups I happen to be attached to at any one point. And I start saying, actually, I'm not comfortable with, whatever it is that's going on that's harming children. But no, he's quite an unfortunate character. And also, what's happened with those 3 so-called male models, the 2 Ukrainian male models and the Romanian one, who set fire to his house, which isn't like a small thing.
Well, no, it's an amazing story, right? I mean, the funny thing is that, there are a lot of conspiracy theories around it. People were saying to me last week, how is it that nobody's reporting it? It actually is being reported. Unfortunately, because I'm a sort of news junkie, I see everything, right? And there were a couple of stories last week that ran in the Daily Mail and in the Sun, which were court reports of this kind of shadowy Russian figure who apparently had paid...
Mr. Money.
Mr. Money, right? And you're kind of going... Okay, well, if that's what they're saying in court, that's what we can report. But I mean, at least it is being reported. If you said to me, how is this possible? I'd go, there's something very weird going on here. We can't say too much because it's
thinking that they've not been able to say, or they've said they don't want to know what the motive was. Why these so-called male models set fire to 2 of his back doors, and also how they got to the back door in the first place.
Set fire to his back doors. It's a great phrase. I'm going to put that one in a clip as well, because it doesn't none of it makes any sense. And it's like, how stupid do you think we are? I mean, George Galloway's been brilliant on this, right? We're hoping to get him on in the next couple of weeks, just because I want to hear him say the Ukrainian rent boys, their story has not been fully discovered. I just want to hear him say it, because it's going to be fantastic. But, I thought of you this week because it was yesterday, actually, Angela Rayner put out a tweet which showed her talking to some schoolboys. And it looked like she was talking to 4 schoolboys who were in detention because it was like only 4 or 5 of them sitting there. And she was just straight out lying to them. And this is not about defending reform or anything like that. But she was like, if it hadn't been for, the NHS saved my child, but, if reform had been in charge, my child would have died. And you just think, what are you doing? Why are you trying to poison these young boys' minds? Because the 2 kids who I think had spoken before her had actually said, we quite like the look of Nigel Farage. And if we had a vote, we'd probably vote for him. We like him better than Keir Starmer. Because, you will know better than anybody in your role as an educator that, teenage boys and teenage girls have got some really interesting things to say, some really interesting thought processes. Who knows where they get them from? But, don't sort of shove them down into the dirt by then giving them a load of bloody propaganda.
Yeah, but that's what they do. And unfortunately, that's what happens throughout the education system anyway. I do know the video that you're talking about, but I couldn't, when I was it came up on my phone, I couldn't bear to listen to it because it was Angela Rayner, so I kind of scrolled on. But so thanks for summarising that. But that doesn't surprise me. So I feel actually incredibly optimistic about the young, and I always have done because I've worked with them for 30 years, and I think they're imaginative, they're risk takers. They do, most of them do kind of form their own opinions. But outside of the kind of Angela Rayner propaganda example that you just gave, the education system itself is absolutely saturated with it. So, and it's mainly so of course you've got gender ideology, which is pushed to the extreme. You've also got climate alarmism, basically fear. It was ramped up during the COVID era as well, where there were considered to be petri dishes of disease and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a miracle that anyone comes out of the education system not completely psychologically traumatized. But of course, what does happen is that they then move into the adult world with a lot of these kind of like woke ideologies kind of entrenched. And I think that's intentional. And you can trace it back to various things that we've signed up to, not least the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, of which there are 17, and one of them is all about education. You've also got gender equality, which includes transgender stuff. So we've, and that was under the Conservatives. We signed up to that in 2015. And those sorts of agendas. So it's not, I don't think it's like people talk about the woke mind virus or, is this like an organic thing? But it isn't. It's actually a globalist agenda. It's something that we've very, very much signed up to. And I do believe that it's an intentional, controlled demolition of our society. And you begin with education, because if you can poison minds and manipulate thinking at that level in the early days, then by the time people move into the adult world, that's very much entrenched. So I think Angela Rayner's just like the tip of the iceberg. Fortunately, in my experience of children and young people, is that they tend to kind of like do their own thing in the end anyway. But yeah, it's absolutely doesn't surprise me at all, having heard what you just said about her.
And in terms of parenting, and obviously I'm always very wary of giving anybody advice as to how to be a parent, because some of us all think, we might think we're good parents. I mean, I don't even know anymore. I've sort of lost the plot on parenting because my kids are now sort of, the youngest is 19, and, I've got pretty good relationships with my kids, more or less. But you kind of ask yourself questions all the time, don't you? You kind of go, did I do the right thing? Was I too hard on them? Was I not hard enough? I mean, It's really difficult, I think, to be a parent in this day and age, because kids have got all sorts of access to many, many different opinions, many different things on social media, on whatever it is that they do. I don't believe this idea that you can sort of prevent them from looking at social media. I don't think that's the future. I think you've got to kind of embrace it and go, surely it's better to let them see things, but then talk to them about them, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's two things. So first of all, there is a push to obviously ban social media for under 16s, but that isn't really about safeguarding children against harm. There's no track record of the government under, whether it's been the Tories or Labour or anyone, to be committed to safeguarding children against harm. There just isn't. And this is really, I believe, about digital ID in the long term. So they've tried all of this stuff of like, oh, it's because, when the guys row over from France, we'll ask them if they've got a digital ID. They'll say they haven't, and they have to row back again. Then it was some guy saying it was to save you from looking through all your drawers to find your passport or your, all your ID that you've got left. Like, you don't know where it is in your house. It save time. Blah blah blah. All these different things. And so this is a covert way to do it, because of course you'd need to verify your age if you're then to access social media. And I think it's part of that agenda. And the reason why I'm opposed to digital ID is because I think it's entirely not about any of the things that they've claimed they're about. It's about control of people, control of movement. It will be linked to 15-minute cities and so on and so forth. So, and then in terms of the actual,
and do you think?
media,
I mean, do you get the sense? Sorry to interrupt you, but do you get the sense that kids are not buying that either?
No, they probably do, because the thing is, so the other thing is, occasionally I'll sort of dip into things like Radio 1 and see what kind of popular culture is doing. And unfortunately, I do think that if you, like with adults, if your favourite celebrity is telling you something is good, then probably about 75% of people will go along with that particular thing.
I mean, Radio 1 now, I mean, I'm like you, I do the same occasionally, and it's so mainstream, it's so kind of, not counterculture. You couldn't get more non-counterculture than Radio 1. And you just think, what the hell is going on here,
Yeah. But then I do think there's then subcultures, BBC's sort of dying a death anyway. And there are loads of really cool subcultures that the kids are involved in, which adults have got no idea about, and they're still going off and doing their thing and having a good time. So I think the ones who are naturally critical thinkers and naturally rebellious and natural sort of dissidents will still go that way.
Yeah.
I still feel like it's about 25% of the population, whether it's adult or the younger people, who become those sort of rebels and dissident voices, and then 75% people who kind of follow the herd. And of course, the education system is very much part of that and always has been. It's really about creating conformity, which is why the modern classroom today, although there'll be an interactive whiteboard, which is like a sort of computer at the front of the classroom and the teacher there, it's no different really to there being a blackboard. Back in my day, when I first started in 1995, that's what we used. It was a blackboard and chalk. And so the actual how schools kind of look hasn't really changed. And also I think the purpose of them, the real purpose of them, which is to churn out conformity, a conformist sort of population who will sort of do as they're told. I don't think that's changed.
No, I don't think it has. I mean, back in my day, it was so long ago that they had a duster and a blackboard. They used to throw it at you if you weren't paying attention. You know,
Well,
you know.
With me, like remember in the 80s in secondary school, and the maths teacher, because I didn't have a clue what was going on in maths. I was in the top set only because I copied the guy next to me.
Right.
And most of the time I was just off daydreaming about things, and occasionally a projectile would come towards the desk. And this guy, very, very great sort of like teacher, I think. But anyway, he would just manage to get the edge of the desk so it would bounce off.
Right.
And just miss you. So it's quite an amazing thing. And occasionally the blackboard rubber as well, which was made of wood. So, I mean, now if you did that, I think rightly you'd be sacked and possibly in prison. But back in the day, it was normal, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Charlotte's just reminded me that that during the old days of COVID, Greg James on Radio 1 used to sing a song called Vaccination every day. And I was thinking as well about that James Corden. Do you remember the James Corden sort of, you know, rah-rah, did a kind of, you know, musical skit? You can probably find it, in the middle of LA, I think, when he was out there. You know, get your vaccine. He was like, have you gone insane? You know, even if you weren't particularly, you know, against the vaccination, you just kind of going, what are you doing? What on earth are you doing?
So I was the reason I mentioned Radio 1 actually is because on Sunday it was my mother's 90th birthday, and we drove up to Buckinghamshire, and we played the radio as we were going up, and they were playing some stuff to do with concerts from the and it was 2021, and it was like, oh, we remember this and that, and I was remembering that at that time the only way you could get into those concerts is if you were vaccinated, and at some of them they had vaccinations at the concert itself, and then guys like Foo Fighters saying raise your hands if they're clean and all this kind of thing. I mean, total dystopian stuff, and now it's all being sort of forgotten about and brushed over, and yet these guys who were pushing that stuff are still in their positions of like the DJs and all the rest.
Well, you know, one of my kids who's now 21, and you know, we've had different conversations since, but I guess when he was about 18, or you know, when it was in the midst of all of that, he wanted to go to Reading Festival, and he got vaccinated, and he didn't tell me, because we used to talk about it around the dinner table, you know, and I was always like, you know, I wasn't particularly against it, but I was just like, you know, if you're going to do it, let's talk about it and let's have a conversation. And he got himself vaccinated without telling me, because he wanted to go to Reading Festival.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell, you know?
Did he have more after that, or just one?
He just had one.
Okay, because there is a good chance that, you know, there's nothing is going to happen, because so there are a lot of I can't remember the percentage, but some of them are saline. It's been discovered, which is why you've got some. I mean, it's now irrefutable, and it's been acknowledged by the COVID inquiry that you know, people have been seriously injured, disabled, and killed by the COVID jabs, and then there are other people who didn't. And you know, thank God, and I'm sure.
I mean, there's no doubt that there was some harm done. I don't think anybody can ever you know,
formally, and we all know that's the case. And it's interesting actually now in America, Senator Ron Johnson has been doing a big expose showing that Anthony Fauci was suppressing information about vaccine harms before the rollout. So Pfizer, for example, knew that their product had killed people. It was in fact 1,200 people in their trials. So there was a gigantic cover up. But then if you look at
I know a doctor, right? I know a doctor who worked for Pfizer at the time who said, don't take it. Right? And you kind of go, okay, then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, but then if you look at like the $100 billion that were made by Big Pharma, and the fact that there's a liability from prosecution if there's so they had legal indemnity basically. So if anyone was killed, injured or whatever, not them who have to pay. So there's no incentive for them to actually do things
And they're
properly.
still pushing it. I mean, I remember back in, November, they were going, you know, you were seeing public service messages, go and get your COVID vaccine. You know, for me, I was getting messages on my phone. I'm over 65, unbelievably. I know it's hard to believe. And they're going, go and get your COVID. I'm like, why don't you piss off? I'm not going. Thank you. Stop texting me.
Better route is to be active and healthy and fit. And just to say, I was looking at your Facebook post.
Oh, yes, I saw that you noticed that. Yeah.
Oh man, that's really cool what you're doing, and it rang true with my own experience as well, because you know I've come. I mean, my excuse is I come from an Irish background, but I've always liked to drink. And when you were saying that thing about like necking a bottle a night and all the rest of it, that was totally my experience. And it was interesting because last year I had a whole year of total abstinence, and then kind of like felt a bit boring, kind of really. And now it's just like a Friday night and or a Saturday night or not at all. And actually it's really working. But all of that sort of habitual sort of drinking was replaced by physical exercise and training, and so it's great to see that you're doing that as well. Really fantastic.
But also, it's just it has such a great. I mean, it's had such a great effect on my mental capacity as well, because you know, regardless of whatever anybody tells you about drinking, I mean, it's a depressant drug, and you know, if you do it too often, you wake up in the morning and you just feel depressed, and you kind of go, well, have another drink and see if that helps, and it doesn't help. You know?
Also, I think it's so. One of the other things is, I mean, you obviously have to wake up early because of your work.
Yeah,
I do the same because I'm a writer, and actually, but it was my wife who's inspired this. Now, this is kind of probably a bit extreme for most people, but she sets the alarm in the morning for 3:22.
Wow.
There's no mystical reason for 22. She just likes the number.
Yeah.
And then the idea is that we'll then wake up and she'll do her prayers. I've got my own sort of Christian practice. And then we'll do our sort of exercise. She does her yoga, I do my training, and then we start our work and writing and so on. And before the day is even begun, we've had about 4 hours of real productivity. Now, you can't do that if you're feeling foggy and a bit like not, because you've got, you know, wasted the night before. So yeah, it's but very, very, very cool, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It's brilliant.
No, that's great. Listen, as ever, Mike, we've had a fantastic conversation. I never know what I'm going to talk to you about. You know, Charlotte always goes, what are we talking to Mike about? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. But it's always brilliant. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day, and good luck tomorrow in the voting process. Let's hope that, I mean, every day I always say to people when there's a poll coming up, there's a ballot coming up, you know, maybe we can vote for something that's just better. I don't know if we can, but we'd like to. Coming up, Kelly J. Keane is going to be here. She's been waiting very patiently to speak to us, so I'm grateful for that. But before we do that, it's 9:10. Should we get some news with Edward Hughes?
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. It is Wednesday, 6th of May, 2026. Local elections are tomorrow, so the parties are in full please like me mode while borrowing costs hit a 28-year high. Perfect timing for Labour to explain why your energy bills might freeze you out this winter. Santander is shutting more branches because apparently we all bank via an app now, and 13,000 flights are cancelled thanks to jet fuel shortages. Nothing says summer plans like come cry with me. The terror threat is now severe. Hate crime prosecutions are being fast-tracked amid anti-Semitism worries, and a British crew member is being urgently evacuated from a Hunter virus-hit cruise ship. Because what this country really needed was more things that can ruin your holiday. Stay safe, vote wisely, and maybe stock up on loo roll, just in case. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you, Edward. Very good to see you back to normal. Very good to see you. Should we do a couple of super chats before we go to Kelly J? One here from Mr. Gillespie. He says, good luck to the Mike Graham Show crew tonight. P.S. All's not well for Labour in the state of Denmark. Birmingham, and as WhatsApp messages get leaked of them attacking opponents. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Labour Party is corrupt as hell. Voice for England says, my wife actually knows Crack Polanski and wants to vote for him. I prefer Nigel and co. Need a stiff drink. Wake me up in 2029. You got to sort your wife out of voting for him, for heaven's sake. Mark says this, Gemma can't wait for tonight. When does it end? It never ends, Mark, but it will end around about, I think we're on stage at about 8, so we'll probably be finished by about, what, 10:30?
10:30,
Yeah, we've got 2 parts. First part, about an hour, have a 10-minute break, 15-minute break, something like that. And that's when I'm going to have my first drink, I think. I mean, Pooch is trying to stop me from drinking altogether, but I may have to have one at half time. We'll see how we go. Morning, Mike. Surely tomorrow will prove Labour and the Conservatives are done, says Loyal. Wishing all attending the event tonight a great time. It is going to be great. It is going to be absolutely brilliant. Allegra's just sent me a message saying only drink on Friday and Saturday. What's it going to do with her? Who's Allegra? No, I can't say. She won't let me. No, she didn't like her name being mentioned. I'm probably already in trouble for mentioning it in the first place. Well, don't send me messages during the bleeding show then. Anyway, 13 minutes past 9. Let's talk to Kelly J. Keane, who is here waiting patiently. Kelly J., very good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us. You're looking particularly dapper this morning, if I may say.
Oh, thanks. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Lots to talk about, really, isn't there? Graham Linehan winning his case, getting it switched so that he was no longer found guilty of ruining somebody's phone, which is one of those ridiculous cases that should never have come to court in the first place. Do you sense, I mean, I don't know if I'm right in saying this, but do you sense, like I do, that there's a bit of a turning of the tide going on? I mean, notwithstanding the fact that half of the Green candidates running for election tomorrow seem to be blokes dressed up as women and, you know, sort of Hamas supporters. But apart from that, do you get a sense that people are sort of seeing the light now and going, actually, there is something a bit wrong with blokes with penises going into women's prisons and, you know, going into women's toilets and all of that sort of stuff?
Do you know what? I think everybody's always known that. I just think the difference is now it's okay to say it. And there was just a moment of silence, you know, in the grand history. When we look back in sort of 50 or 60 years, it will be a blip, I think, where people are too frightened to speak. And actually, I think now this insanity has touched so many people that they're beginning to hear about their kids learning it at school. There's been a huge amount of news stories and people actually talking about it. We still have a real issue in the charity and the women's sector and NGOs and the UN and WEF and WHO and all of these other very, very powerful global organizations, you know, American pharmaceuticals, American insurance companies, yada, yada. But the normal people, they know and they're not afraid to say it.
No, exactly right. I mean, J.K. Rowling has been an absolute stalwart, hasn't she, in all of this? And there was a great tweet that she put out the other day. Somebody accused her of having a go at some, you know, bloke in a dress. And they said something like, you know, she's alleged that this is, and she's like, no, I didn't hint that it was a bloke in a dress. I said he was a bloke in a dress because he was, and he's a he. Yeah. He's not a she. And I can't understand this kind of mentality of the left, where apparently you're wrong if you want to protect women's rights, but you're right if you want to attack them.
Well, look, you're okay if you want to use Islam to attack women's rights, and you're all right if you want to use bloke in dresses to attack women's rights. And other than that, what you can do is wax lyrical about how much you care about women and our rights, but you can't actually define one, and you don't mind if we're covered in fabric. So it's completely hypocritical. It doesn't make any sense. And I think it's just there's somehow a power vacuum has been created, and this nonsense has filled it. And for quite a long time, people who should know better have been using this as a vehicle to gain power and control conversations. And I think that time is up. I think for some corporations, they now understand that this is not quite the profit-making area that they thought it might have been.
No, I mean, that looks, I mean, the Dylan Mulvaney kind of time seems to have passed, doesn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, it has for us. But I think, and maybe it has in advertising companies, but I'm unfortunate enough to see some of the Met Gala stuff spring up on my timeline with two sort of, the woman is some sort of 6'5" bloke. So it's still in some areas, but you know, when you look at things like the trades, when someone comes to do your scaffolding or fix your toilet, they are under no illusion that men could ever be women.
No, I mean, I had a conversation the other day. I was doing a sort of debating show on another channel with a couple of lefty women. And I said, you know, we should stop with this idea of equality, you know, because equality is a sort of ridiculous term. Because men and women are not really equal, which is not to say that one is better than the other. It's just that you can't compare them, you know. And they were like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you know, I can't have a baby. Therefore, you know, I'm not equal to a woman who can have a baby. You know, there are things that women can do better than men. There are things that men can do better than women. So stop with this sort of equality madness, you know?
Yeah, well, you would have found equality if we'd said that things are equal value, you know, like having a baby and raising a child is of equal value than the man that goes out and earns the money to enable a woman to do that, right? And as a family, work as a unit, and everybody has their part to play. And I'm not, you know, I don't cook particularly. I'm very good at cooking, but my husband is infinitely better. He's also better at earning money. So I don't know what my value is, actually. But I've had 4 children. That might be my value.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that people could come up with a bunch of reasons why you have value. But what I'm saying is that it's kind of nonsensical, because their argument, being what they thought was modern day feminists, was that, you know, it's outrageous for you to say that women are not equal to men. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm literally not saying. They couldn't understand the concept of the word equality, which I find to be, you know, inadequate to describe men and women and their relationships, because we are not equal. You can do things that I can't do. I can do things that you can't do. It doesn't mean that you can't be a sniper, but it probably means you can't be on the front line in arm-to-arm combat with some Ukrainian soldiers who might kill you. You know, it's pretty straightforward to me.
To be fair, it probably does mean I can't be a sniper, because we're not as quick. So, and we don't have as much stamina, which is, I got in a lot of trouble when I saw those 2 really incompetent women when Trump got shot in the ear, and those 2 couldn't even seem to find their guns. And I just, you know, I said, as someone who's had close protection officers before, there are women that I like, that I've had, and they were absolutely brilliant. I had a Muslim woman, actually, who escorted me down into Speaker's Corner, but I wouldn't just like women. I do think there's, you know, when you see tiny little riot police officers where the riot gear barely fits them, I'm just like, look, I'm absolutely fine for men to take those roles. And I think it's probably really important that at certain negotiation roles in the police, that women are very well represented.
Yeah.
But, you know, watch that Manchester airport thing where that woman got sucker punched to the face.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe she wasn't in the right place, actually, for a particular event.
No, exactly right. I mean, I'm like you. I mean, I've had to have occasional security going to things, and, you know, I feel a lot happier if the guy that's walking next to me, or the 2 guys walking next to me, have, 1, been in special forces, and 2, are quite a lot bigger than me and look like they could kill someone. You know, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I've had arguments with feminists before where they've said, "Oh, I'll go down in the middle of the night." I'm like, "Well, what's the point of getting married? You know, if there's a bump in the night, my husband is going. If there's a heavy bin to be taken down to the end of the drive, I'm not doing it."
Right. Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, you know, these people, like the 2 people that I was arguing with, they saw that as a weakness in some way, that I was somehow, you know, demeaning them by saying there are things you can't do. And I'm not. Yeah. That's literally not what I'm doing, you know?
Well, I think one of the mistakes that we made a long time ago is, as opposed to saying, look, this is open to both sexes, like the police, fire service, whatever, it's open to both sexes, but we're not changing what you have to do to qualify for that role. We're not going to say, look, if you're a man, you have to achieve this, and if you're a woman, you have to achieve this. No, I think if we're going to say equal, which you and I would both argue is silly. But if we were to say equal, then you both have to be equally as good to do that role. Like if my house is burning down, I don't want a 5'1" woman coming up the stairs trying to lift me and my husband down it. That's just
No, exactly right. And what about what's your sense? I was talking to Mike Fairclough earlier, as you probably saw, who's an educator, former headmaster. What's your sense of the kind of coming generation, if you like? I mean, my youngest is now 19, so I'm not really in touch with the sort of 14, 15-year-old kids. What sense do you get? You've got children, haven't you? I think. What sense do you get from what their reaction is to all of these conversations?
Well, you probably don't know this, but quite recently my son said something at college. He's 17, he's in his first year, and he said something at college along the lines of, and I've put it on Twitter, so I'm not, and he said it's okay, along the lines of, there's quite a lot of people in LGBT who have mental health issues. This was overheard by a teacher, and two of his friends weren't very happy. They were like mortified, devastated that he said this one sentence.
Devastated.
And now,
I love that they're always devastated, aren't they?
oh, really deeply upset. So I had a conversation, which I recorded actually and published, with the head of the college, because my son was given a very serious conversation, a formal warning that was going to stay on his record until he left, like a gross misconduct kind of warning. And when I said, look, one sentence, is this enough? She said, this head of the college said, yes. I've since got them to formally apologise and withdraw. But had I not done that, that would have remained. So what I think is happening to this generation is a number of things. One, if you do know that this is all nonsense, you either say it and risk being ostracized from your friends and getting a sort of authority to step in and warn you. You either know these things and know that you cannot speak, and you're totally surrounded all the time by these sorts of conversations by some of your friends, and you can't disagree. So you either risk everything, say nothing, or you have to go along with it. And I don't know what sort of chilling effect that will actually have, like holistically, on the resilience of these kids, but also what they feel they can discuss. And then if you can't discuss stuff and thrash it out, how do you ever actually know anything or know what you think about anything? So I think we're going to see the repercussions of this in sort of 10 years' time when all those kids are in the workforce. And I think there's going to be hell to pay.
So do you get the sense then that the sort of institution itself is clamping down on free speech as opposed to the individual kids? So it's kind of, like the organisation reacts before the kids do.
Well, look, if those kids in that conversation had been deeply upset and they'd gone to a teacher and said something, the teacher would have said, grow up. People have different opinions. That's just life. Right. You can't control what people say. And I think that would have been the end of it. But when you have the stamp and the sort of backing up of authority that actually you can punish someone for things that they say, I think it just creates a bit of a nightmare. We know universities are captured. We know schools are terrible. But I think the real hotbed of menace is these further education colleges. And let me just say, I also wrote to the college because there's a load of Afghan migrants that actually go to that college. I'm in one of these towns that everyone forgets. And so we're now getting loads of HMOs and we'll get the scatter of all the migrants released from the hotels. And when I asked the college what further safeguarding, bearing in mind my son had a formal warning for making people feel unsafe, when I said what further safeguarding have you taken to make sure that like 16-year-olds are safe with these 35 to 50-year-old Afghan men hanging around, I was told absolutely none. In fact, they don't even record how many of these men go to the college, what courses they're doing, or anything. They have no idea at all, and nor the council. So that's the real danger we can all see, and we're not even allowed to name it. We're not even allowed to recognise or record it, and yet our kids are being persecuted for their speech.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? It's just so sort of arse backwards. It's hard to imagine how anybody could ever think that that's a good idea. But listen, Kelly J. Keane, brilliant to talk to you, as ever. Good to see you, and send your son our best, and tell him to keep pushing up against the man, as they used to say in America, because it's got to be done. Kelly J. Keane, thank you very much indeed. Find her on the Twitter, of course, as the Posey Parker. Brilliant woman, always standing up for common sense and the right to say what the hell you want. because that's what we all want, isn't it? You know, you don't want to be told what you can and can't say. You don't want to be told why you can't walk down a particular road. You don't want to be told you can't get off a bus, as was the story I told a little bit earlier on. Coming up, we're going to speak to David Ellis, who's a defence and political lobbyist, particularly interested in the European Union and also veterans as well, because we're going to find out from him just why it is that the government, particularly under Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, seem absolutely and utterly dead set on prosecuting the fine men and women who served their country, who did their duty, who did what they were told by their superior officers and indeed by their government, but who are now being pursued through the courts for something that they supposedly did wrong. Let's do a couple of chats before we do that, because we're going to move over as well shortly to the new UK Live Online. This from Laura Jane. Love Kelly and what she stands for. Only women can be women. A hero of mine. Biology matters. Sex-based rights matter. Keep up the good work, Kelly. Well, exactly right. You know, this one from Mr. Gillespie. Good luck to the Mike Graham Show crew tonight. P.S. All's not well for Labour in the state of Denmark. I think we've done this one. Birmingham WhatsApp messages are showing that they don't know what they're doing. That's another story. Yeah, I mean, thanks for having Kelly on. She's great, says John. What are we doing? Are we doing a bit of Pooch's Pooch before the news? And then we'll do the news, and then we'll switch over. Yesterday we had a bit of a sticky switch over, but today, fingers crossed, we should be getting it right, hopefully. Let's do Pooch's Pooch and see what we've got.
You can see
Have I not done Meltdown?
Peacefully, and I can say just about anything except
Have I not done the
things.
Meltdown?
If I say the word CHICKEN, she will wake up. If I ask her if she wants to go OUTSIDE, she will wake up. If I ask her if she wants to go RIDE in the CAR, she will wake up. Anything else I say, she's not waking up. Steak, beef, hamburger, peanut butter. She loves salmon. Salmon skin, bone, dog treat. Oh, if I say the word WALK, she'll wake up. What else do dogs like?
Story.
She likes pretzels. If I mention one of her TOYS, she'll wake up. So let's try this out. I've said a bunch of things, mentioned different kind of food she likes, but I know she loves CHICKEN, chicken.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. They say that that you can teach dogs a variety of words, like a toddler, and certainly, I mean, that's very. Ziggy knows chicken. He knows the word chicken. He knows the word lamb. He knows the word walkies. He knows the word treats. He knows the word fish. Anything like that, and he's literally like, I'm ready, you know. And I mean, I've said this to Pooch in the past, where, you know, if we're ever having like a lamb roast or something, leg of lamb, he literally won't leave the kitchen. He sits there guarding the oven, about 2 feet away, and just puts his head on the floor, paws like that, and you go in and you go, come on, can we go out? No, he doesn't want to go out. I once took him on a walk when he was a bit younger, and it was around about 4 o'clock, which is when he gets fed, and I walked down the road and I got to the sort of the corner of the field. We were about to go in the field, and I turned around. He wasn't there. I was like, "Where's he gone?" He'd walked back to the house because it was dinner time. He was like, "I don't want to go for a walk. I want to have my food." And the other week, he wouldn't get in my son's car because it was dinner time and there was lamb. He would not leave the property And my son Chris was trying to get him into the car to take him somewhere, and he was like, no, not doing it. Just I'm waiting for the lamb. You know, that's what I'm doing. Anyway, listen, David Ellis is coming up in a little while. The news first with Edward Hughes, and then we're going to switch over to UK Live Online. So beware and look out on the YouTube chat for the little switch button, which will be put up there by Charlotte, and we'll see you over there on the other side.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. It is Wednesday, 6th of May, 2026. Local elections are tomorrow, so the parties are in full please like me mode while borrowing costs hit a 28-year high. Perfect timing for Labour to explain why your energy bills might freeze you out this winter. Santander is shutting more branches because apparently we all bank via an app now, and 13,000 flights are cancelled thanks to jet fuel shortages. Nothing says summer plans like come cry with me. The terror threat is now severe. Hate crime prosecutions are being fast-tracked amid anti-Semitism worries. And a British crew member is being urgently evacuated from a hantavirus-hit cruise ship. Because what this country really needed was more things that can ruin your holiday. Stay safe, vote wisely, and maybe stock up on loo roll, just in case. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.